running behind. Where's Vince? You
Oh my
wanna go
gosh,
grab Vince?
look at all this stuff.
Got a lot of stuff here.
We have soda and we have reflections and a calendar and oh, I missed this.
Was it? Oh, Marat.
It's on when we're in.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen that. Mariachi.
Mariachi.
I knew what it meant. Oh, how cute. Tamales and beer.
Ready?
Who's this from?
Okay. Well, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the City Council, May 5th, 2015 to order. Madam Clerk, if we could have roll call, please.
Councilmember Fish,
Here?
Councilmember Mann,
Here.
Councilmember Sternquist.
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Yu,
Here.
Mayor Chavez.
Here. Okay, we're pleased to welcome back Pastor Jim Walden to do our invocation tonight. He's not really supposed to be here, but it's okay. We're lucky that he is. And then maybe when he's done, you'll give it a little plug for our National Day of Prayer as well.
May I do that first?
Yeah, why don't you
Everyone's
go ahead and do
invited
that
to the
first?
National Day of Prayer event this Thursday night at 6:15 at the Temple City Park, from 6:15 to 7 o'clock. So we'd love to have everybody come. So could we stand as we pray?
And I just want to add, Pastor Walden has been in charge of this, and he's done a fantastic job, and we look forward to it. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
all your work.
Thank you. You're welcome. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for this nation, for this state, for this city. I'm so pleased to be a part of it. And God, you have richly blessed us. We are grateful for the leadership from our mayor to our council members to our manager and attorney, the entire staff here. Father, we look to you for wisdom, that you would continue to protect us and that you would receive the honor and the glory. We're so grateful to be a part of this nation. Thank you for being here. In Jesus' name, we all say,
Amen.
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 Thank you. All right, I'm very pleased and honored tonight to introduce Troop 174, who's going to provide our flag ceremony, and along with our Pledge of Allegiance. All the boys here are from the Tiger Patrol, I believe, correct? And they meet at the Westminster Presbyterian Church on Live Oak. They've got 30 Boy Scouts in their troop, and they range from ages 11 to 17. And they have a very special event coming up. They're taking a backpacking trip to the San Bernardino Peak at the end of May. It sounds like a lot of fun. You guys ready for that? All right. Okay, so without further ado, Troop 174.
Detail. Up. Post.
Hey.
All those in uniform, please salute. All those non-uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two.
Detail. About. Face. Detail. Forward. Punch.
Everyone can be seated, please. You know, I think you all agree how very special it is to have not only our local clergy, but our local scouting groups to come here to these council meetings. It really gives a good start, I think, to all that we do and shows that we truly are a community. And so we're very, very honored and thankful for those who do participate. So thank you again for coming tonight. Okay, so we will now move on to item number 5, which is our ceremonial and presentations portion of our agenda. And as we do at least once a month, we'll start off with our Pet of the Month. And we're pleased to have Cindy Rigney here, President of the Board of Directors of the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. We'll introduce our Pet of the Month.
Hello,
Hello.
this is Freddie. I'd like to introduce you to one of our current residents. Freddie's been with us for a little under 2 months. He is a terrier mix. I can't see Freddie. Yes, good. Very good. He loves people, as you can tell. Some of you met him outside. He's a very friendly boy. Very happy disposition, walks well on a leash, loves other dogs. Made a new friend outside with one of our Temple City residents, a little Shih Tzu mix, I believe. So Freddie is a good boy, ready for adoption. His kennelmate Andy is missing him terribly right about now. So, okay, and I want to thank you all for your support of the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. We very much appreciate the privilege to work with people. So, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Hopefully we'll find him a home. All right, thank you. Okay.
I almost took it home.
Well, the next 2 items are those things that, again, remind us of the great community that we do live in and the honor that we have of recognizing those in our community who've kind of gone above and beyond and have showed us what great people we have in this city. Our first is a proclamation. Those of you who are not aware, this month, May, is Older Americans Month, although I've already discussed this with Bob, and we're not too happy with that title, are we, Bob? We have to come up with another one, I think, huh? Maybe. Yeah, it just sure does. It sure does. So before introducing our, how about Elder Statesman of the Year? I don't know. We'll come up with something. Yeah, that's too much. All right. So let me read the proclamation, and then we'll have a couple of introductions. This is from the City of Temple City. Whereas the City of Temple City is a community that includes 7,500 citizens aged 60 and older, of which I am now one. So I'm glad to be part of that group. Whereas the older adults in the City of Temple City are among our most treasured resources, united by historical experiences, strengthened by diversity, and interpreting events through varied perspectives and backgrounds to bring wisdom and insight to our community. And whereas increasing number of adults are reaching retirement age and remaining strong and active for longer than ever before. And whereas the older adults in the City of Temple City deserve recognitions for the contributions they have made and will continue to make to the culture, economy, and character of our community and our nation. And whereas our community can provide that recognition and respect by improving the quality of life for older Americans, by increasing their opportunities to remain active and engage in community life, providing individualized services and support systems to maintain the dignity, independence, and self-determination of older Americans as they age, combating ageist attitudes by honoring their past, present, and future contributions. Now, therefore, I, Tom Chavez, as mayor and on behalf of the City Council of Temple City, do hereby proclaim May 2015 to be Older Americans Month. I urge every citizen to take time this month to honor our older adults and the professionals, family members, and volunteers who care for many of them. Our recognition and involvement of older Americans can enrich our entire community's quality of life. So, with that said, we have a special honor tonight. We are going to be honoring this year's American of the Year, who happens to be a little bit older. I don't want to use older American, okay? And many of you, of course, know him, Bob Rodenbacher. I've known Bob for a number of years now, and I can't think of anybody more deserving of this award. We see Bob at so many events around town, Camellia Festival, of course, and through the Kiwanis Club, and he gives a lot back to the city, and now this is our opportunity to give back to him. So I would like to bring up Bob and our Park and Recreation Coordinator, Roman Rodriguez, to accept this proclamation on behalf of Older Americans Month. So Bob, come on up. And let's give him a round of applause. Yeah, please. Roman, did you want to say something? Yes. Okay, come on up. Come over, Bob. No, I want to shoot. I think you get this. Huh? Isn't that cool? Does he get this? Yes. All right. You get to keep it for a while. Look at Jerry. So they can keep it. All right. Roman? All right, let's stand over here where Roman talks about you. Just up his nose.
Well, I got to meet Bob and talk to him just more recently. I learned that he's a real meat and potatoes type of guy, just like me. But I'd like to, if you don't know much about Bob, for over 2 decades, Bob has been involved with the Boy Scouts of America as committee chair and secretary for Troop 169, as well as district commissioner, assistant district commissioner, and staff and commissioner staff for the Lucky Baldwin district. He currently sits on the Eagle Board of Reviews for the Lucky Baldwin district. Bob has been an active member of Kiwanis Club of Temple City since 2011. He is also on the board of directors for the Elks Lodge number 1328, and also has been involved with the Camellia Festival for the past 16 years, coordinating grandstand seating with his wife, Carol. If you don't know, Bob is also an Army veteran, where he served at Fort Steele, Oklahoma from 1961 to 1963 as an artillery surveyor, reaching the classification of E5. When not volunteering in the community, Bob enjoys time with his friends and spending the summer in the Eastern Sierras, camping, hunting, and fishing. Me and Bob will get along real great. So another round of applause for Bob. And Bob, if you have any words.
And as most of you know me, this will not be political. But I'd like to thank all of those that deem me as being worthy of this award. I'm sure there's a lot of people within this community that deserve this more than I do. Again, like I said, I'm very, very humbly accept this in the name of Older Americans of Temple City.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
And you know that part of the reason we gave this to you because your wife Carol, right? I just want to make sure. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a picture.
On this place?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, both of us had completely black hair when we started this out. All right, you stand in the middle, hold up your proclamation. Roman, come on over here and get this picture. All right, good job. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Bob, I'm going to give you a free plug here too. So those of you not aware, one of the things that Bob is involved with also is the Temple City Sportsman Club. They are having their 53rd annual fundraising fish fry on Saturday, May 30th, at the Arcadia Community Center. So if you need any more information, you can get it from City Hall, but great event, and they do it for a good cause and raise money. So thank you for being involved in that as well. Okay, you're welcome. All right, so keeping along with that theme, we have another special presentation, and of course, this young man has been here several times as well for different things. And tonight, we are like to honor Dan Snell. Many of you know Dan from all the things that he does in the community. Also a former Temple City older American or senior citizen, or you get the idea, right? All right. Dan is also a World War II veteran. Of course, his main claim to fame is he jumped out of an airplane at 90 years old. Right, Dan? You remember that, right? Okay. I saw the pictures. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Dan is about to take part in a special ceremony or event. I'd never heard of it before, but I've got a little bit to learned a little bit about it in the past couple of weeks. It's called Honor Flight. And Dan, I don't think Marva's here tonight, is she? Did she make it? She didn't make it. Honor Flight is focused on bringing veterans of World War II to the National World War II Memorial. And any veteran who likes to see the memorial, or many veterans like to see the memorial where they fought in, and organizers plan to transition their programs to focus on veterans not only of World War II, but the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and any subsequent wars as the veterans of those wars get older. The veterans, including Dan, are escorted by volunteer guardians who help them get to Washington, D.C., and once they land, they are taken by, are saluted by fire trucks and passengers, and often met by cheering crowds in D.C. upon their return flight home. And we're here tonight to recognize and to honor Dan because he's going to be boarding his honor flight with his son on May 8th, which is a few days from today. So Dan, we thought that such a great honor cannot go unnoticed, and tonight we're here to acknowledge you and to present you with a certificate of recognition, not only for this, but all that you've done through the years for the city of Temple City, and it's been a special part, I know, of your life, and you've been a special part of ours. So we want to congratulate you and thank you for the service that you've done for your country, and I can't think of a more honored person to give it to than to you. So come on up. I want to introduce Dan Snell to everyone who doesn't know him, and congratulations on this honor, this honor flight honor. So why don't we have everybody come on up? You know the drill already, right? There we go. Perfect, thank you. Good job. You have a great flight, okay? We'll see you when you return. Would you want to say a few words? I messed up and didn't allow you to do that, huh? Of course. Come on over. All right.
I would like to say a little bit more about the organization, the Honor Flight. I applied for this trip 3 years ago last November. And that means that it's 3.5 years between application and fruition. Now, why does it take so long? Because the organization depends entirely upon volunteers, volunteer donations. And it takes quite a bit of money to put a trip together for 20 veterans with all expenses paid, air flight, food, transportation, and lodging. And I'm here tonight to, among other things, to give you, anyone in the audience, an opportunity to donate to this organization. If you would like to do this, I can give you the information where you can contact the person involved. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dan. And have a very safe trip, and we look forward to those photos when you get back. Is Jerry going with you? Jerry, you're not going. All right. Oh, well, sorry about that. Okay. All right, we next have a presentation by John Hunter, who's been with us before, and is going to talk about the Enhanced Watershed Management Plan. So, John, we'll turn it over to you, and I believe you have a PowerPoint that you're going to present to us?
Yes, I do.
And you have all kinds of good stuff for us, right? Stuff to cheer us up?
It's all about cleaning up the water.
All right.
And everybody's in favor of that.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can just introduce for the members of the public who don't know Mr. Hunter, we have a lot of mandates, and Mr. Hunter is going to talk about that on the stormwater front, on a lot of fronts related to unfunded mandates that are passed down to us. Mr. Hunter and his firm represent a lot of cities throughout Southern California and Northern California, but mostly Southern California. Our two new council members haven't seen his prior presentation, but I know they were in the audience at the time as they were getting ready to hopefully become new council members. So one of the themes, and I always tell John, don't mince words. This is an unfunded mandate that is going to be a significant issue that we have no way to grapple with financially. Mr. Hunter and his team, along with a coalition of other cities, are really trying to grapple with this problem in a practical and real manner, similar to the issues that we're dealing with stormwater. So Mr. Hunter will go with a 15-minute presentation here to give you a sense of what the Enhanced Watershed Management Program means within that context of both the stormwater and the unfunded mandates that are related to this that are being passed down to that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I might add that it's been my pleasure to work for Temple City continuously since about 1994. So thank you very much. Yes, at my last talk, which was a few months ago, the Enhanced Management Program was just getting underway, the development of it, and now it's being finalized. So Brian thought it would be a good opportunity for me to come in and update everyone on that. So first, what is an Enhanced Watershed Management Program? Well, it's basically a comprehensive evaluation of the watershed. In other words, we look at the watershed as a whole and figure out what it needs to be done to bring it back to essentially nice, clean, drinkable, pre-development water. This is going to require a effort of all the cities, all the agencies, from Long Beach up to Hidden Hills and the city of San Fernando. It's being, in this case, led by the City of Los Angeles. They've hired a consultant team. I'm not a part of that, but we do attend the meetings every month and give our advice to prepare the EWIM. And real quickly, how we got here was, and most people don't know this, but the Clean Water Act was not the first Clean Water Act in the country. It was actually predated by California's Porter Cologne Act. And the Clean Water Act, the Federal Clean Water Act, took a lot of sections from Porter Cologne verbatim, word for word, into the Federal Act. So California once again led the nation. And this was back in the 60s. And the Clean Water Act was adopted in the 70s, and that formed the NPDES program, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which I always love to test people on, see if they remember that acronym. And that in turn led to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, which led to our 2012 permit that we have. The permit basically says you shall not discharge polluted water into the storm drained streets or rivers of California. One of the options was, and this is the one that Temple City chose, was to go with the Enhanced Watershed Management Program. The Enhanced Watershed Management Program had a couple of advantages over the other alternatives. One, it gives us an extended period in which to come into compliance, and it gives us certain legal protections that as long as we are implementing the program, as long as we're trying, we have some limited protection against third-party lawsuits and penalties from the regional board. Temple City, along with 17 other cities, that's the purple area up here of the Los Angeles County area, joined together. This is essentially the Los Angeles River watershed that you see up there. Temple City is circled off to the right-hand side, and you can see the scope of this. This is a huge area. Temple City made a wise decision, I think, in joining this group because a lot of the costs are fixed. So you were able to spread the cost of developing this program amongst many, many cities. So with that, the key dates. On June 4th, 2013, this council approved the participating in the EWIMP. The work began with the City of Los Angeles. Monthly stakeholder meetings are being held. The first draft of the EWIMP will be submitted to the regional board on or before June 28th, 2015. So that's next month. It's a draft at this point. Don't misunderstand that a draft is not what you sat down when you were a student and pencil scratched out your first thoughts. This is basically a final document, and it's going to be a draft until the regional board approves it, which will take probably about 6 months after they receive it. And the bottom line is stormwater treatment systems are going to be needed to be installed. You know, back in the 40s, we built these beautiful flood control channels that took all this urban runoff off the streets and dumped it into our rivers. And now we're saying, hey, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Now we're going to have to go back and treat that water beforehand. And that is not going to be an inexpensive endeavor. How do we figure out what we have to do? Well, the EWIMP, the heart and soul of the EWIMP is a computer modeling program. This is the one that's used actually by the US EPA. And that blue area up there on the screen is Temple City. And they divided Temple City, and in fact all the cities of Los Angeles County, into very small segments. And they said, well, if we assume that these areas have this much industry and this much residential and this much commercial and this much parks, what would the pollutant loads be expected? How much pollutant is expected to come off these sites? And they divided it up. And in this case, the lighter the area, the better. The light areas need less treatment. The darker areas need more treatment. And they ran this iteration millions of times through their computers. And they said, based on the most cost-effective scenario for the entire upper LA River watershed, this is going to be the cheapest, easiest, quickest way to go. And so they've said, we've got that dark area on the center to the left, the lighter areas to the right-hand side. Those are, well, optimally, we should focus our treatment. Now, we can do twice as much in the light areas and half as much in the dark areas, and that would still achieve our goals, but that will be a more expensive endeavor. So, for Temple City specifically, the best treatment strategy will be basically, as large private development sites come into town, we should require all of them to start installing infiltration or bio-infiltration systems. And the target is we're going to put 31% of the eventual total of these treatment systems on the private sites. 30% is going to be through green streets. So you've got...
What do you mean by large? What define large?
Well, that is the term that's defined in the EWIMP. Basically, it's every site we can possibly get. It's sites that are 5,000 square feet or over. So
Okay.
they're not really large.
Well,
but-
most residential lots are bigger than that.
Right, right. But we're talking about the sites as the construction begins on them. So then we have 30% through Green Streets. Your Rosemead Boulevard improvement was a good example of a Green Street, but you're gonna have to put in 30% of the targets through the Green Streets. 26%, we're gonna get together with all those other agencies and say, hey, you're downstream, we can save money if you build your project a little bit bigger, so can you do that? So we've got 8 of these regional projects, none are in Temple City, that we may or may not be asked to contribute to. And then 13% through the small-scale, low-impact development project. So any project, anytime a homeowner comes in and says, I want to put in a new patio, and you're going to issue a permit, they're under 5,000 square feet, so we're going to say, well, around your patio, can you put a grassy strip so that as you clean off your patio or your driveway, it runs through grass before it gets out to the street. So that is the optimum. You can mix and match, but that will be the optimum target to reach. What are we looking at? In the upper left-hand corner, it's hard to see at this scale. That's a 40-acre shopping center. That's all that water is going to be infiltrated. On the upper right-hand corner is a typical Green Street. You can see they've got a little median there that the road water off the road will go into the planter. And then you've got typical parking lot BMPs at the bottom where the curb cuts go into soil. You've got a small single infiltration bin. And then you've got a nice grassy swale there. You can be a walkway during the dry season. So these things don't have to look ugly. They don't have to be intrusive, but you basically have to get the water to touch soil or vegetation.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Does that picture happen to be the city of Southgate?
Yes,
the
it does.
In
That
the
is-
Azalea project?
That is one of the prime, I use that slide all the time, especially when I go to
trying to
in
take
front of the
credit for that
regional
one, or
board. This is what you do.
Absolutely.
Now, you do have to have a 40-acre parking lot come into town to take advantage of something like that. But, you know, something like that is the easiest, cheapest way to go. Okay, after all that, what is this going to take to reach the goals? And remember, these goals that they're setting are extremely strict. So this is what it is. You're going to have to capture or treat 3.7 acre feet by 2017. You're going to have to treat 18.9 acre feet by 2024. So you think of a football field, 18, let's see, I think it's a football field times 4. So in 2024, you're going to have to capture enough water to fill a football stadium, if I do my math real quick, about 80 feet high. These are huge projects. The total cost for that purple area that I showed is estimated at $6.35 billion. For Temple City, I've got it underlined there, $87.5 million. Most of these projects will have to be built by 2028. So you're talking a considerable amount of money. As the city manager had mentioned just a few moments ago, this money does not exist. The funds are not out there. Nobody knows how we're going to pay for this. And this is not just pointing the finger, hey, Temple City, you're going to have to come up with this. This is across the board. So there's going to have to be some discussions with the regional board that these are just not attainable. The funds just don't exist. And all the watershed plans that are going in say this is going to be contingent upon funding. The regional board has said bluntly, I was at their workshop just 2 weeks ago, where they said, and this is a quote, as best as I can remember, we at the regional board are tasked with making sure that we have clean water. It's the city's responsibilities to come up with the funding. That's a quote, as near as I can come up with it. So it's a tough struggle. So that's where we're at. Nobody can afford this, but we're all trying. We are trying our best within the resources that exist. So I also want to make a mention before I conclude that there is a monitoring component on this. They are going to have a new series of monitoring stations that are going to be going all throughout the rivers and the tributaries, making sure that we are, in fact, reaching our goals. As I mentioned, the funding source needs to be developed. Municipalities will need to continue working together. And this is not, Temple City and San Fernando going gung-ho and everybody else saying good luck. No, everybody's got to move together on this. We have to work as a team. And everybody, I'm sure, is in favor of clean water, but I'll be honest with you, been doing this for 30 years, and this is going to be very challenging.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, thank you, John. If I can add just a couple of quick things. One, the prior council had voted to support a measure that does not give the funding, but starts the process of looking at this in a much more regional manner and employing, and it's a Senate bill that our local senator, Senator Hernandez, is carrying right now, to talk about the mechanism where the county sanitation district can start to work with it. It is not a funding mechanism. It is not even a project-specific mechanism in order for us to address this, but is the first step. Mr. Hunter's, has a regulatory function that he performs, and he performs it extremely well. The practical, on-the-ground reality is there is no way it is, I won't mince words, it is pie in the sky impractical for a city our size to look at an $87 million mandate over the next several decades. And as a former council member will tell you, the stormwater system was built for a reason as well. So there is almost this incompatibility to a certain extent with the existing stormwater system that we have and the mandates that are coming down the pike. I really believe, and I've been in the business for about 15 years, and I've seen a couple different mandates come in. This is definitely the most aggressive, almost most disconnected issue that, from an intergovernmental affairs standpoint, meaning how we work with other agencies that I've seen in my career over the last 15 years in local government, people are becoming more real. As deadlines come closer, I think you'll see more urgent action that will come from this. These are scary numbers, and in some ways, impractical and not achievable for any agency anywhere. But we're having to do this. And to just give you an example, too, just from a compliance side alone, and I'll give you a preview of what the 15-16 budget's going to present. From the general fund, we will have to appropriate approximately $126,000 related to stormwater monitoring and programming. Nothing to do with capital, nothing to do with any project-oriented things. So we are already paying a price now for those mandates and those unfunded mandates carrying forward. We will continue to play that on a go-forward basis. We will continue to pay for those on a go-forward basis. But I really think at the end of the day there will be, and as you know, I was in Sacramento last Wednesday and was emphasizing this issue with our local legislators. They get it. Our county supervisor, Supervisor Antonovich, understands it, really believes, and I think rightfully so, that it's not even a county problem or a city problem. It is a statewide problem and a national problem that needs to be addressed at that level as well. So this is going to be a continually evolving issue, but at this point, we're in compliance. We're doing everything that we reasonably can. The next few years, as John has pointed out, will be challenging. We won't be budgeting anything from a capital side yet on related to this issue. We will just be dealing with the truly regulatory compliance matters, but that price tag alone is $126,000 that's coming out of the general fund for next year. So it's kind of a capstone to the presentation, sir.
Okay, thank you. Is that it?
Thank you.
Are there any questions from council?
Yeah, a few questions. I guess who's going to enforce this? Regional board is going to enforce it?
Well, the regional board, yes, it can be enforced in two ways, either the regional board or by third-party lawsuits, which the Clean Water Act allows.
Right. So let's say, just using your number here, 3.7 acre feet by 2017, that's just a couple years from now.
Yes, it is.
So who is going to measure we actually have treated 3.7? How do they measure that?
We have to submit an annual report.
We have to prove that we have done so.
Yes.
So if we haven't, well, okay, that's good. That's a tall order. That's 2 years, less than 2 years, because you have to show by 2017. That means that things need to be done by next year.
Yes. And
By
you-
now,
you-
I mean,
and
starting now and next
You haven't identified any project, and you haven't started the CEQA process yet.
Okay, the second question is really, you talk about a 4 different way of accommodating that. Large development site, that's private money, that's not necessarily city money. Let's say we were gonna go about doing that. Small scale LID projects, that's again, it's most likely it's develop, homeowner, whoever. So the two areas that will be responsible for is really the green streets and regional projects. And when you calculate the $87 million, are you counting just the green street and regional projects, or counting all four ways?
That would be all four.
All four.
Yes.
So in other words, our cost may be potentially half of that.
Correct. But on the other hand, if you don't get a lot of new development moving into the city, that treatment is going to have to be made up in one of the other categories.
Oh, I see. All right, thank you.
Right. I would add that the computer calculations, they did not take into account the existing project. So we may get a little credit for the Rosemead project and some of the other projects that have gone into effect. So at least we'll be able to show that we're making some progress. But at least it's a start.
All right.
We'll be
thank
able to show that we started.
you. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we'll now move on to item 6, public comments on items not listed on the agenda. City Council will now hear public comments regarding items not listed on the agenda. Procedure to address the City Council is highlighted on the first page of this agenda. This section is limited to 30 minutes total. And first speaker request form, Steve Terry. Come on up, Steve.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to introduce my compadres here. This is my wife, Nancy Terry, and Lance Baroldi. We're representing the Sister City program in Temple City. And first of all, I'd like to thank the City Council for your continued support, because obviously without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do what we do and send kids to Australia and give them the experience of a lifetime. I'd also like to recognize or congratulate our two new board members, Nan Fish and William Mann. Congratulations on being elected. And Cynthia Sternquist at being reelected. Congratulations. The reason we're here, basically the four of us, actually the three of us and Leanne Baroldi, Lance's wife, spent most of April in Australia visiting with Sister City people and visiting one of the high schools there and looking at their program, because that's one of the things that the kids have to do. About 50 to 60% of their time is go to school over there. They don't have to do the homework, but they do have to go to school. And basically, we were entertained by the city mayor of the Hawkesbury, Kim Ford, who we presented a flag banner, which was graciously supplied by the city of Temple City and Mayor Chavez. And in return, they gave us 2 certificates, which I want to present to you today, this evening. One is from the National Australian Sister City Program. The other is from the Hawkesbury City Council. They're commemorating our 30th anniversary partnership with them over the last 30 years since 1984. So basically, I would like to do that.
Well, why don't we get a group photo up there with us? Photo op. Come on. Nice photo night for Jerry, huh? Sorry, Jerry. That's all right, he enjoyed it. Let's see what we have here. We have certificate of recognition. Very nice, 30 years.
Let's put my shoes
Why don't we hold these out front? Here, William, you can hold this one. All right, come on up here. Short people in front.
Short old people.
No. There's a game going on, obviously. Come on, we got, everybody get in here. We'll hold these up. Is that good? Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. You did. Thank you very much. Oh, nice. Perfect.
Yes, in addition, each of the council members plus our city manager got a pin, a fountain pen from the Hawkesbury Sister City. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you, and next time you
gorgeous.
speak with them, express our thanks. Last time I was in Australia, I was fortunate enough to meet Mayor Ford, a very nice individual, and I wish I could have gone this time, but maybe next time.
Meetings next week in Hawaii.
There you go.
Secretary.
Oh, really? Nice.
I think you should join them.
The Australians know how to travel. That's
they
one
do.
thing they know how to do.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Next, I'd like to call up Lynn Best from the Historical Society. Lynn?
Thank you again for the privilege of speaking before this audience. I have made sure that the City Hall and the council members have received this particular flyer. We are having a special speaker come to the museum on May the 17th. He is a World War II vet, tail gunner, survivor of 35 missions over Germany. Has written a book entitled It Only Takes One. I had the privilege of meeting that gentleman today at the Seniors Club. I encourage all of you, if you're available, to please come to that event. It's open to the public. There's no admission. Donations, of course, would always be gratefully accepted. We are a 501c3. We're making a lot of changes and some improvements in the museum. For those of you that haven't been to the museum for a long time, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We've managed to get one photograph of the Sheriff's Department from 1930, the original station at Cloverly and Las Tunas, northwest corner. And one of the men that's in that picture is the father of one of our members. So we're hoping that she's able to come to that event and we can unveil that photograph and put it into a display case. But there's a lot of work involved. Our president and I, Carol Dougherty and myself, we have been over there probably every day for the last 2.5 months, Monday through Friday, finding mysteries in the museum and tracking down where some of these items came from so that we have a proper paper trail. But it's been an amazing journey thus far, and I encourage you to please come as often as you can. We will have rotating displays periodically, and we will have what we call static displays, one of which is an honor to all of our military that have lived in this town over the last 80 or so years. We have a display of model airplanes, and the gentleman today told me that one of them that had a tag on it, he said, actually, that's a B-26, and I said, thank you very much, I'll fix that tomorrow. So please do try to come. I've also given the council a copy of our latest newsletter. These flyers, Jerry Jambazian still has some, and Jerry, may I give you some of these to peddle some more for me? Again, I thank you very much for the courtesy of the evening. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you. We have a quick question, Lynn. Lynn, quick question?
Lynn, what is the name of your speaker again? I forgot.
His name is Larry Stevens.
Larry Stevens. I just wanted to say Larry Stevens was actually one of our honorary grand marshals
Yes.
for the Kamea Festival this year. He's a wonderful man. If anybody wants
Yes.
to go and meet him, he has lots of great stories, and his book is incredible also.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'd encourage the public to do that.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you.
good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have Karen Noyes, the library. Karen?
Good evening. My
Good
name
evening.
is Karen Noyes, for those of you who don't know me. I'm Children's Services Librarian at Temple City Library, and this month I'll also be the acting manager for the library as Jean Lee, our current manager, is out on vacation. So, hi, and good evening. We have a full slate of programming in May. Most notably, I want to speak about the personal safety workshop for families. I'm very excited about this program. We're one of the few sites in the entire county system to have this program. It's sponsored by the Children's Rescue Alliance. They're going to come, they have a professional come out, and they're going to speak about how to keep your children safe, your family safe, from all sorts of threats, physical, emotional, mental, it's going to be a 90-minute program. It's free to the public, but you do have to sign up because space is limited, and it's been popular in places like West Hollywood and the other sites, Lawndale, that we've had it in. Of course, we also have exciting cultural events. We have, very excited to bring mariachi band on Saturday, May 16th, and we've had wonderful musicians and storytellers come by, and all these programs are free, and so we highly encourage you to enjoy that program. And also, in interest of promoting democracy and citizenship, we have our citizenship class back again, and that is also free, and we encourage people to sign up for that and earn their citizenship. And also, housing law clinic and our regular story times are also available all throughout this month. That's it.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good luck on your work this month.
It's so much fun. It's only been 1
Good.
week. It's been great.
Very
Thank you.
nice. Thank you. Okay. Steve Stafford, come on up.
Mayor Chavez, council members, city staff, I've noticed this in this city for long as I can remember. When somebody goes to do a new project, they're not required for the electrical and all the utilities to go underground. There should be some sort of requirement with all the building that's going on here. If you started this 10 years ago having the requirement, I would say about at least a third, if not a third and a half of the utilities would already be underground. One of the things it takes, and I'm an electrician, is you take a sweep down the wall and sweep out 3 feet and cap it off. So later on, when there is an underground project, it's already done for the customer. You know, and I see so many panels, even down where my dad used to live, that are already set, even where my dad used to live. That panel's set. All of these can be piped in, set up, ready to go. It's like there's no, I see nothing in the city that tries to promote it. There needs to be codes when they do new projects, like Broadway and Golden West, there's 3 houses. Those 3 houses, if the requirement was there, would be underground. That would remove at least 2 telephone poles back there. You know, it's like, you talked about a month ago about a project on Sultana. That should be a requirement where that project, the utilities are underground. It just keeps, there's no start of this. And it's, years ago, when I was in high school, they undergrounded the utilities on Las Tunas in a lot of areas. And it was supposed to continue, and it didn't. What I'd like to see is a new project, you have to go underground. You have to, or be set up for underground, so when it comes there, you can do it easily. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have T.K. Washuta, is that correct? Mr. Washuta, welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I and my roommate have lived on this, on the border of unincorporated San Gabriel / Temple City for 8 years. Twice a week, I use this public laundromat across the street on the corner of Las Tunas and Golden West.
I'm sorry, you use what?
I use the public laundry across the street. It's called Coin-Op Laundry on the corner of Golden West and Las Tunas.
Okay.
Twice a week. I spend $17 a week in there. That's $68 a month. I'm a well-paying customer. They have one restroom in there with one toilet and one sink that is understood is to be used by one person at a time. There is no inside lock on the door to lock it when one is using the toilet. You have to pay $0.25 to open the door, which I do. Back in mid-March, I was in there one morning, and there's nothing on the outside that says occupied. Okay, I was on the toilet, and another customer, put $0.25 in the door, and she opened it on me, and she said, "Oh, why didn't you lock the damn door?" I said, "There's no lock on it." Okay, I have made 3 written requests to the owner. Michelle and Stephen Wong are the owners of this laundry. I've made 3 written requests to them to put a lock on there. Then I've pursued it over here with multiple emails to the city manager. I have pursued it with a handwritten complaint to your code enforcement man, V. Tran, whose English is not good enough to speak to me. He refused to go out and investigate. This is him admitting this to me in front of your staff, Jennifer, over in planning. He said, "I don't need to go out. I read your complaint. I don't need to go out. There's nothing the city can do about it." Now, your city manager forwarded one of my emails to your community development director, Michael Forbes, and I want to read just part of it. There are no city codes that address the ability of a business owner to charge for using the restroom, or there is no requirement that a lock be placed on the restroom door. Mr. Tran correctly stated there is unfortunately nothing the city can do to address your concern. We must enforce the laws on the books. And in this case, there are no laws for the city to enforce. I'm talking about a modest lock, a slide lock, nothing fancy, on the inside of that door so that a small child or an adult does not walk in on me again. Theoretically, a small child, a toddler, could walk in if the parent put $0.25 in that door and say, "Mommy, Daddy, there's a naked man in there." The parent theoretically could call the sheriff, and that could escalate into a civil action against me, because your plumbing code, according to your city manager and your community development director, does not require a lock on the inside of a public restroom. When was the last time any of you folks paid $0.25 to open a public restroom door in a public laundromat in which you are a customer, and somebody else walk in on you for the simple reason there is no lock on the inside of it? Outrageous. I have pursued it all through the channels. It is nothing but complacency. That's all I get. Complacency and disinterest from this city administration right here. Okay, that's one issue. Oh, another thing. People lose, when that woman walked in on me, she wants to raise hell with me because she lost her $0.25. Now I've got to pay another $0.25. I said, the owner's number is on that wall. Call her and take it up with her. I don't want to hear it. There's no way for me to lock the door. Very embarrassing. A kid could do it. At the end of your Rosemead beautification project, you removed 3 canopies, overhead canopies at designated Metro bus stops on the east side of Rosemead, at Garibaldi, at Longden, and at Hermosa, all on the east side. Okay, disabled people, people like me who ride the buses, those 2 lines, the 266 and the 487, ride them 7 days a week. Now we're stand out there and we're exposed to the sun, the rain, and the heat. Okay. Toward the end of that beautification project, my time's running out, I don't care. Toward the end of that beautification project.
Well, you may not care, but we do have some
well, these are
rules we have to
significant
follow.
concerns.
So I'm going to have to ask you to
Okay.
wrap it up.
All right. I have implored the city manager and other people in City Hall to replace those canopies. I've been given 2 reasons why you can't. At the end of the project, I was told when we put the bike paths in, the sidewalks no longer meet ADA requirements. Now today, I'm told by someone in this room that there's no money for it. The money has to be allocated to complete the tile mosaics. Those vertical tile mosaics are the ones on the floor that nobody sees or cares about. So it's a priority for the art instead of overhead protection for seniors and people who wait on the bus. Lastly, we need a crosswalk or a prominent slow SLOW sign between the northwest exit of Value Mart and the eastern edge of Golden Motel before someone is struck in there who jaywalks with a stroller and is refilling gallons of water.
Okay.
Every day I see let young women pushing strollers with infants in them, carrying water bottles to be refilled on the front of Value Mart. They jaywalk there. That's a major artery. I have asked time and time again for a crosswalk, and I'm told today we don't put crosswalks, unprotected crosswalks, between designated crosswalks.
Okay.
Shouldn't there be something proactive done about that before someone is struck and killed?
Points well taken. We'll look into it. Thank you.
And a simple lock on that restroom door across the street.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else would like to make a public comment at this time? Hearing none, we will close public comments and we'll move on to item 7, consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended unless removed for further discussion. If members of the city council or persons in the audience wish to discuss any matters listed on the consent calendar, please address them at this time. We have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Okay. Any objection? Hearing none, consent calendar will be approved. We'll now move on to item number 8, public hearing, none. Item 9, unfinished business, none. And we'll now move on to item 10, new business. Item 10A is the adoption of Resolution 15-5077, approving the removal of a one-way travel restrictions on 4 alleys in the downtown area. And so I believe, is that Director Forbes will be presenting that to us.
Yes, I'm going to give a very quick introduction, then I'll hand it off to Jana from TransTech. The 4 alleys in the downtown area on the north side of Las Tunas were, at one time, were 2-way alleys, and at some time in 2014, they were converted to 1-way alleys. In late 2014, we got a number of inquiries from the the Transportation and Public Safety Commission, as well as members of the public, about why the alleys had been converted to 1-way and what the reasoning for that was. The staff that was involved in that was no longer with the city, so we asked TransTech to go back and take a look at the alleys and see if we could see why they were converted to 1-way and if there was justification to have them as 1-way or if it made more sense to convert them back to 2-way. So TransTech took a look at that and prepared a report which is provided to you this evening. And their findings and recommendation is that the conditions in the alleys are such that it does not warrant being converted to 1-way. However, the city does have the ability through the vehicle code to control alleys in any way we see fit, basically, if we make a finding that it serves the public health, safety, and welfare. So with that, I will hand it off to Jana, who will go into more details about that.
Before we do that, just clear something in my mind, did we ever find out why they were switched to 1-way? There were any minutes or notes on any of that discussion? I would imagine. Do we know when and where and how, why?
From what we can gather, Mayor Chavez, it was done internally. Nothing malicious by anybody. It was just there were requests in the past by various parties, and we staff being proactive took some steps to look at seeing what that could do as a mitigation factor. What we needed to do, though, and what we're doing tonight, is kind of a follow-up to that, in providing the traffic engineering through our traffic engineer, through a certified traffic engineer, to assess that. And as Michael said, there's no right or wrong with alleys, but there is some traffic engineering that we need to do in order to feel comfortable on a go-forward basis on whatever the council chooses to do tonight.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, we're on now. Let me get all this going here. My name is Jana Robbins. I'm with TransTech, and we are the traffic consultant for the city. And the city asked us to look at this issue of the...
I don't think your mic is on.
Mic's
Is it?
not on.
You move your mic. Move your mic closer.
Move it closer. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
As I was saying, the city asked us to look at the 4 alleys that are from Las Tunas to Woodruff. So we did existing conditions. We looked at the alleys. We labeled them 1 through 4, starting with the one between Cloverleaf and Primrose.
Now, let me ask you, it doesn't look from the photos that the alleys actually go through to Las Tunas, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
They
so
all
they
dump-
actually, they actually go to the end of the, behind the buildings on Las Tunas.
Right, and they're all, access is all through public parking lots.
Right.
So to get to all 4 alleys, a vehicle would need to go through the side street, through the public parking lot, and then northbound on the alley.
So are they
as
all
it is
north-
right now.
They're all one-way northbound?
Correct. They're
Okay, so-
all one-way
So you cannot
northbound.
enter them off of Woodruff?
That is correct.
Correct, all right.
It's signed, no right turn or no left turn at the entrance or at the intersection right there. Starting with alley number 1, this is the one Cloverleaf to Primrose. Yeah, Primrose. On both sides, we looked at what's on each alley. This alley is approximately 18.7 feet wide. There's a 3-foot cross gutter in between, down the center. On both sides, this has multifamily residential. What's interesting on this one is that we laid tube counts, which is the average daily traffic, so it's over a 24-hour period. There was only 55 vehicles on this alley. Now, it could be off here and there because it's such a narrow street. You may get, if anything, you may get extra counting because wheels may touch both tubes. There's, on this alley, there is a rubber speed bump on each side of the curb cut or the cross gutter. There's one on each side. It's like it's the rubber where you bolt down.
Now, I couldn't tell from your reports, so the speed bump is actually at the south end of each of these alleyways?
Yeah, it's kind of mid-block, but it's more towards the south end, yes.
Okay.
It does not have the speed bump signs, but it has a slow yellow sign going for the northbound. We looked at, this one has a couple of private parking lots. There's about 60 parking spaces. Shown in the yellow are the private parking lots. And then also, it has about 5 driveways and about 26 garages that open on to this alley. Here's a picture, alley number, the first picture is the alley looking north towards Woodruff. So as you can see, the multifamily, the garages are on the bottom, and the alley asphalt goes right up to the doors of the garages on the southern end. Now, the second picture is the alley looking south from Woodruff. It's a little bit wider with some of the garages have some setback.
No, I don't see the hump in either one of those. Where would
They're
it be?
down,
You're looking from each end, I don't see it on either
yeah,
end.
it's kind of on the picture 1, it's about where the shadow is.
Where the shadow
It's
is.
up further, so it's like, this one, it's really mid-block.
South of the 4 garage doors.
South of that pole, that
Yeah.
electric
Well,
pole
you're-
that's there?
Well, you're looking north on the first
looking
picture,
south.
so it'd be north, kind of where the shadow and the alleyway is.
So I take it there's no,
Yes,
so I take it
yes.
there's no consistency as where the hump
No.
is on each of these? They
They're
just
close, but it's
put it
not
somewhere.
like, yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a picture on that alley of where the is that the sidewalk? Do we have one of those
There's no
little?
sidewalk. Oh, you mean
Going
at the
north.
Woodruff?
Yes. There's no
Um,
sidewalk there?
There's no sidewalk down the alley. There is a sidewalk as you hit Woodruff, but I
Right,
don't
that's
have the
what I'm
picture
talking
with
in.
me, but there
Okay.
is.
So this is the right side,
Mm-hmm.
and then is this the sidewalk here?
Well, it would be up here. This would be standing on the sidewalk looking south down the alley. So this is Woodruff down here on this picture. So probably the edge is right here is the sidewalk.
And where is the stop sign there?
It's on the wall, there's no stop bar. But there is a stop sign and there's a yellow diamond pedestrian warning with the.
Which is similar to all the others.
Yes, they're
correct?
all the same. They all have the stop sign, and then underneath is the pedestrian warning sign.
So when you looked at that area, did you see people, this is what I've seen, is that people don't stop before they get to the sidewalk. They stop in the sidewalk where pedestrians potentially are walking. Because for most of those alleys, I don't know about here, but I think I saw that there is a big tree. It's hard to look to see who is coming on the sidewalk, either walking or on a bicycle or skateboard or what have you. And that's why the cars go out into the sidewalk.
Councilmember Sternquist, part of the recommendations, part of the mitigation recommendations made by TransTech will partially deal with some of those issues. May not, and maybe we'll be able to do some enhancements if the council so directs us to. But there's one of the mitigation measures talks about signage in all directions in a couple of the spots, and she'll be able to address that later in the presentation.
So it's pretty consistent on all these alleys.
They're all about the same,
That
yes.
there is,
The exact same
the views are
signage.
blocked for
Yeah.
people that are traveling north.
Yeah,
Not so
you
much
have a
turning,
sidewalk, right,
Going
right.
south, it's not a problem, but coming up is
Mhm.
the issue.
Like I said, there is a stop sign and the pedestrian warning sign. There's not a stop bar. So that is something like the city manager said that we could maybe enhance with recommendations to put a stop bar in. Because it is a change of pavement. It goes from the asphalt to the concrete. Most people assume that that's where you're supposed to stop and then edge forward, but
I
whether
haven't
that
seen
happens
all
or
the
not,
times
you know?
I'm in those alleys riding my bike, I haven't seen one person stop behind.
You ride your
where-
bikes in the alley?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm an alley rider.
Okay.
But I also had a car when I went there just before this meeting and checked out again, and 2 cars came in when I was exiting, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is just showing the circulation path for the one-way versus a two-way. So supposedly, right now, it's posted one-way, so how to get to your house if you live in the alley and you need to park in the garage is you need to come down and go through the parking lots and then go up and disperse through here. If it was two-way, then if you lived right here, you could just enter right through here and you wouldn't have to come through the parking lots. Alley number 2 is similar. It has the mid-block speed hump. This one has some more of the private parking lots, and then it also has the public parking lots on the west side, which is denoted in green. We have on the west side, we have 12 garages that open onto the alley. On the right side is kind of the back side of some strip commercial, and they have their own private lots. Also, this alley is similar, it's 20 feet in width. They have the slow warning sign at the existing speed hump, and then it also has the stop and the pedestrian sign and the rubber speed hump. This is the picture. If you look on the picture, the first picture on the left, that's looking north towards Woodruff. You see the yellow sign, that's where the existing rubber speed hump is. And then the other picture.
What does that sign say?
It says slow.
Oh, doesn't say hump?
It doesn't say hump, no, it says slow. Yeah, so. And then this one also here is on the picture on the right. It's right before Woodruff. So you see the change of pavement. There is not a stop bar. There is, I think our north arrow is covering it, but It has the stop sign and the pedestrian sign. This one, you can see the garages have a little bit of setback from the alley. But it also has the public.
So on the area, on the entrance from Woodruff going south on these alleys, are there any do not enter signs?
There's all the no turn.
There's no one way though, right?
But I mean, if it's one way going north, correct?
Yes, it has a.
So
it
it would
has
make
a-
sense to
right.
have, I would think, you don't want people going south, do not enter.
It has all that.
There are do not enter signs?
Yes, on
Okay.
Woodruff. It has no left, no right, do not enter.
Okay, so
It
there are
has
do
all
not
the
enter
signage.
signs on Woodruff.
Just whether people are obeying it.
Well, that's
another
always the
issue,
the
you know?
thing, yeah. It's always the issue.
Right,
All right. But they're there.
they're there.
Okay.
This also in Alley 2 is the circulation path for the one-way on the left. They have to go through to get to the houses at the top, would access through any of the parking lots to the alley. Versus if you had two direction, then you could just enter off of Woodruff. This is alley number 3. It's the one between Temple City and Camellia. This one, I guess I didn't. Okay. This one also is multifamily and single-family and mixed commercial on the west side. Multifamily, single-family on the east side. We have mostly the garages opening onto the alley on the east side with 16 garages and 4 driveways to the back sides of people's homes. The yellow are the private parking lots to some of the commercial use. This width of this alley is 18.7 feet wide, and also there's the typical the cross gutter in between. It also has the rubberized speed hump with the slow sign, and then the stop and the pedestrian crossing at the Woodruff exit area. This is the alley looking north towards Woodruff. As you note, the parking lot's all open onto the alleyway. Then we have on the other side, the alley looking south from Woodruff. There again, it's the typical, the garages some have a little space, the concrete pad, some do not, all throughout the alley. And then you can see there's the access to the parking lots. And this also is the circulation path for the one-way. You have to, on the left, you need to go through the public parking lot and then go up the alley. And then the two-way is, you would be able to access from Woodruff or the parking lot. Now, this one, we did have a commercial owner that was the owner of this building come out when we were doing the survey. And he said it's very difficult for his trucks to come in this way and make a hard left into the alley and then into his parking lot. So whether he does that or he comes down Woodruff,
Well,
you know.
I should presume that he would maybe want to come down from Woodruff and then back into that location. Might be easier than.
yes,
the
yes,
other way
that's what he
around. I don't know.
insinuated. So, so
Okay.
then, let me see. And this has a little more traffic. I failed to mention that. This one has about 227 vehicles per day. So it's a little heavier, but you have a little more commercial and the different lots. Okay, alley number 4, similar again. This is, but it has multifamily on the west side and single family on the east side. A lot of garages on the west side. You have 26 garages that open onto the alley, and then on the east side, you have 9. Just a couple of the driveways, mainly for the ones that have maybe like a back unit multifamily. This also has the mid-block, or kind of the southern end, the rubber speed bump. The width of the alley is about 19.3 feet, 3 feet cross gutter, the typical, the PED sign, and the slow sign at the speed bump. This one, I didn't, let me see just down here, if I have any pictures. On this alley, there was a little more parking in the alley. People were parking parallel to their garage opening on some of them, mainly on the east side.
Did you get a sense of what the parking is on each of these? Is parking allowed currently or not allowed?
Okay,
what
this
is
was,
the-
this was one thing we had to do some research from questions that came up, is that it's not posted no parking. So people are parking
Probably right in front of their garages.
in front of their garage. Most of this, what we witnessed or observed, is that when they are parking, they're parking where there's a concrete pad where it fits. Now, I don't know if at night when they all come home, if they're parking in front of the garage that's extending into the alley. I'm not sure on that.
My concern would be if they are using that as parking, is there going to be then enough room for two-way traffic to go?
As long as they park on the areas that have the concrete pad, there is room. But if they start extending into the asphalt part, there may be, it really narrows the width of the alley. Right now, you have 9, 10 feet each direction, because the cross gutter is kind of like a median, or a yellow divider line down the center. Alley 4, this is the circulation for the one-way alley as it is right now. They need to go through the parking lots and come up Woodruff, and then versus the no direction. What we did find, I want to say, is that we looked in all of our accident records, and we asked the city for any that they had, and none of the alleys had any recorded accidents.
Did we check the sheriff's records?
We requested that from the city, and they told us they did not have that, so, unless something came to light since.
Thank you.
This is just a little bit about the vehicle code, the California MUTC, which we follow. There isn't a policy in there that says that alleys need to be one-way or two-way. It's at the local authorities may, by their discretion, decide which direction the traffic can be. Now, it is not enforceable until, of course, that it's posted, and it is posted. So right now, you have one way. Things to consider is the site access for the residential driveways fronting the alley, existing garages, the corner clearances for people restricted to the one-way. That's also for the people coming in and out of the residential driveways. We recommended that the alleys be designated back to two-way travel. Basically, they're using it as two-way travel right now, even though it is posted one way. It's obvious because people are parking facing the wrong way. So I don't think they're doing a U-turn in the alley to get that way. So this was one of our recommendations, to have it back to two-way travel. There were not any accidents. There is the speed bump. What you would need to do if you decide to make it back to two-way is post notice of removal and the date when you would be converting it back to two-way travel. You'd need to post it at the end of the alley and mid-block, just so that, especially if there had the public lots, that they would know that to watch out for people coming in obstruction. You would need to notify the residents and the business owners that have direct access to the alley. You would have to remove the signage on Woodruff prohibiting the turns into the alley and any one-way signage or arrows. We are recommending that you post a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit sign at each end of the alley. Repaint the existing speed hump. This is what they look like, the number 2 picture right there. That's what you have in the alley right now.
Do they extend all the way across?
You have 2 of them, one on each side of the cross gutter. They're about 5 or 6 feet long, and this is just small. But they're the kind that they're rubber that bolt in.
Would those be the kind that you would recommend that we would, if we do install additionals, they would be of the same type or different?
We could go with the same. It's just whatever the city decides is the best cost effective. You know, we would have to
Because I've
look at the
seen these type, and I've also seen the
concrete ones or
concrete
the
ones or
asphalt,
the
yes.
asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the asphalt ones are a little smoother. They can do them so that it's a hump, but it doesn't mess up your alignment on your vehicle either. See?
They are smoother. We're hoping that in the alley, they're traveling at 15 miles an hour so that they're not going to be driving fast over them, but, so, and then also to repaint the existing speed hump, and then also put the speed hump signage in each direction at the speed humps. You could do, if you decide to do the set of speed humps, you would put the speed hump at the beginning on each end so that it's a warning sign.
I think one of the issues that you may not have addressed, although that might not have been part of the study, which we alluded to earlier, and that is the parking issue. Are we going to allow parking there? What type of parking?
Right.
Because
We did
that'll
not
have an
address that
impact,
in
I think,
this.
on the traffic.
Mm-hmm. It was,
I think the parking was not something that had been brought to our attention previously as an issue, and I think based on what TransTech found when they did the tube counts, the parking or the traffic volumes in the alleys are so low that it wasn't something that we saw as an immediate concern to look at, but we can certainly go back, if it's a concern and the council wants us to go back and look at it, we can certainly go back and do that.
It's probably only a concern at night when people park. It sounds to me like they were out there during the day taking traffic counts, but at midnight, there's no traffic, or very little traffic, but there's cars parked there. That may be when you should go out and take a look.
Right. Well, and Jana, when they went out there a couple times, they did observe some parked cars. It's never pinched down to the point where somebody can't pass. It's just a matter of 2 vehicles not being able to pass one another, which you often find that in alleys due to telephone poles or whatever, that there are pinch points where 2 cars can't pass each other. We can certainly go back and look at it. I would recommend that if we're going to do that we do some outreach to the residents along the alleys too, just because I think people that are accustomed to have been accustomed to parking there for years, or if we end up posting it for no parking, that would be something they may want to speak about.
Since you bring up that topic, one of the questions I wanted to ask was notice given to the residents and businesses in this area that are affected by what we're discussing tonight?
We did not give notice to them that we were discussing it, but the Transportation Commission recommended, and we agreed that if the decision is to go back to 2-way, that we would reach out to them before they're converted back, just to let them know that that change is being made. But we did not reach out to them for input prior, because there was no outreach done when they were converted to 1-way.
Well, I understand all that, but perhaps it would be nice to hear from them before we make the change, since they're the ones who are affected by it most. I understand that this got to us probably because somebody was either complaining or wanted to change, but I would love to hear from those who are specifically affected before we make a change, because they may say, we love it the way it is, there's no reason to change it.
Well,
It'd be a little late in the day for that if we make the decision to change it and then invite them to come to the council meeting and give us their 2 cents. By that time, I think it's a little late.
Yeah, that's a valid point. And anecdotally, I have observed, and TransTech has observed, that people are not following the one-way signs as much as they are following them. There's a lot of wrong-way traffic in the alley, so it seems that a lot of the residents are not observing it anyway.
But we don't know if those are residents or just people passing through, maybe people using those businesses. So it may not be the residents, and it may not even be the business people. It just may be people coming through that have business in the city. We don't even know that.
Do we have citations that have been written there?
No, apparently there are no citations.
No. None?
For parking or for?
For going the wrong way?
No, because the alleys are not properly posted for one-way, so we would have, in order, under the vehicle code, in order for us to write one-way tickets, every entrance to the alley has to be posted as a one-way travel, and that was not done, so we could not write moving violations in the alleys as they are currently signed.
So maybe that's why people aren't following the rules, because some might know that.
Well,
Michael,
and Councilmember, on that point, so the whole council knows, you also either have to adopt an ordinance or a resolution establishing those regulations. The signage just implements your ordinance or resolution. To my knowledge, the city never adopted an ordinance or resolution. So while you have the signs up there, they are unenforceable currently. If you want to keep the status quo as per signed, you will have to come back and adopt an ordinance or resolution that establishes legitimate one-way traffic patterns.
Do we have to also
And the signage.
establish an ordinance to make it two-way?
Yes.
So either way, we gotta do a new ordinance.
Yeah, if you seek to regulate it. Now, if you just want to allow two-way traffic and parking in sort of a laissez-faire manner, then you don't need any restrictions. You would just direct staff to remove the existing signs, and it would go back to whatever the existing condition was. If you want to regulate the traffic flow in the alleys, you have to adopt either an ordinance or a resolution that specifies what it's going to be.
But isn't
parking,
regulation posting signs and putting humps, isn't that a form of regulation if we're telling them how fast they're going to be able to go through that alleyway?
As long as you have an ordinance or resolution establishing what those restrictions are, and then the signs reflect that law. Remember that it's only the resolution or ordinance that is a law of the city. Just posting the signs alone isn't sufficient.
So if we don't have an ordinance and we post a sign as recommended by TransTech, that sign will still not be enforceable, correct?
We have
Correct,
a
but
resolution before you this evening that you would, if you wanted to go back to two-way and do the speed humps and the signs, that there's a resolution that we're recommending you adopt this evening that would specifically authorize putting the alleys back to two-way and installing the signs and installing the speed humps. So then the council will have adopted a resolution directing that, so then it would be enforceable.
It doesn't say it on your agenda
I'm
description.
confused now. He's saying that all it takes is a resolution to enforce it. You're saying it takes an ordinance to enforce it.
No, the vehicle code says you have to either have a ordinance or a resolution.
Okay. Thank you.
And even though it doesn't say it on the agenda, I think staff has proposed resolution number 15-5077.
Yeah, I see that on our report. Okay. All right,
Question, Mr.
questions
Mayor?
from council?
Do we know if we have anybody here that actually lives on that alley or has any
Well, I
comments?
have one speaker
about
request
that
for him.
alley?
We'll see when we get to that. We haven't
Okay.
opened public comments yet. So.
Okay, just wanted to know.
All right, are there any other questions from council?
Michael, the property that the city owns on Primrose, I believe there's parking spaces actually there that aren't the pads, is that correct? On the Primrose property?
There are, there are parking spaces on the Primrose property, is that?
Right, but they're in front of the garages. So those are different than the pads that you're speaking of, right?
Yeah, I don't know offhand if there's enough room behind the garage there. I know there's a pad next to the garage. I don't know offhand if there's enough space behind the garage to park a car there.
Well, there's usually 2 or 3 cars parked there daily. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
whose
don't-
cars they are, but
Yeah, I'm not sure if honestly, I don't know if there's enough room there for them to park legally or if they're hanging into the alley. I'm not sure. So in some cases, on some of the properties, the garages are set back far enough that you can park there without hanging into the alley. But in other cases, it's only a few feet. So if you're parked there, you're going to be protruding into
So
the
then
alley
none
at
of
least
these
a
are
little bit.
parked parallel to,
So, in some cases, people are parking parallel. In some cases where there's room, they're parking perpendicular.
so they can park depending just on where the space is, both
Right.
ways.
And in either case, they may be hanging into the alley.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, prior to 2014, was the alley ever one-way?
Not to our knowledge, no.
I have a question. Why are we recommending 15 miles per hour? I mean, when the volume is so low, is there anything that prompted it? Why we need the
15 miles per hour is the standard speed limit for alleys. I'm not sure, is that in the vehicle
It's, yes,
code?
in the
Yeah.
vehicle code, 15 miles per hour is considered a prima facie, which means you
Right,
don't
I
need the
understand that,
resolution
but
for
the question
15
is, if we
per
start
alley.
posting it, the other alleys in the city, or we start, should we start putting 15 miles per hour everywhere where there's an alley?
Well, under the vehicle code, it's assumed, it's stated that the speed limit is 15 miles per hour
Right,
unless otherwise
but you don't
posted,
necessarily
so
need
we
to
don't-
post a sign for it, though.
We're recommending posting signs in this case just because of the attention that's been focused on these alleys and,
Are there any other alleys in the city that,
oh, yes.
are we planning to post 15 miles per hour? Are you proposing that?
No, I mean, this study just looked at these 4 alleys. We haven't looked at any other alleys. I think if there were other alleys where speeding was a concern, then we would probably recommend speed humps and/or speed limit signs if a traffic study showed that that was appropriate.
I'm not sure I understand the need for signs, but anyways, there, another question. Why do we need speed humps?
The speed humps were the assumption that we've made because there was no stated reason for the alleys going to one way. One of the assumptions we've made is that speeding was perhaps an issue. Speeding is sometimes an issue in alleys, so TransTech recommended the speed humps and the signs just as a preemptive measure, really, that in the event speeding was an issue. The Transportation Commission actually recommended against putting in any more speed humps. Their opinion was that the one speed hump in each alley was adequate, so they actually recommended against it. And TransTech has acknowledged the speed humps are not required, they're not necessary to address a known safety concern, but just in the interest of engineering practice, they're recommending it.
A stop bar is not recommended right now, right, in the recommendation?
We did not include that in the recommendations, but certainly that would be appropriate at the north end of the alleys where there is a stop sign. And given the concerns that Councilmember Sternquist raised, Jana and I were discussing it earlier, that doing a stop bar there would certainly be appropriate to remind people that they should be stopping before they get onto the sidewalk.
And the stop bar is on the ground, correct?
The white
The
bar
white.
that's usually see in the street, yes.
Okay, any other
Right,
questions
thank
from council? If not, I'll open up public comment. I do have one speaker request form. Steve Stafford.
Mayor Chavez, Mayor Pro Tempore you, council members and city staff, I drove these alleys early this morning, and some of your questions I probably could answer, and the one on Primrose on the east side of Primrose between Temple City Boulevard, that Councilmember Sternquist asked about, it is narrow there, and I talked to Michael and recommended they put up some no parking signs. And you know, I think if you go 2 ways, you need to put some no parking signs up there. Some of those alleys are very narrow in spots, and I did see the speed bumps. They're all kind of like in the middle of the alleys. And I see, you know, you could go either way, leave them one way or make them 2 ways. I think it would be better to have them 2 ways. I know there was talk of backing a truck in the one between Camellia and Temple City Boulevard. You got some power lines there and some trees. I remember years ago they tried this out at McDonald's and they took out a bunch of people's meters and power lines. And I don't think backing a truck in is a good idea. I think these alleys could be done 2 ways, but like Michael said, stop signs, the signs 15 miles per hour, and I think some no parking signs. Because if somebody calls the sheriff's department and they don't have no parking signs there, how are the deputies gonna enforce it?
Yeah.
You know, I strongly recommend that there's some no parking signs there at the very least. I used to live in Newport, and they used to post the alleys, no parking anytime, and they had yellow lines down where if you're over the line, the car can be towed. I think that this needs to be done if they're gonna be two ways. I'll help in any way. I'll take pictures in Newport to show you guys, whatever you want. But if this is gonna be done, it needs to be done right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Colleen, you want to come on up?
Colleen, remember her name, Colleen.
My name is Colleen Hewson, Temple City resident. And regarding the alley between Temple City Boulevard and Primrose, there was a very bad accident at that point several years ago. There's a learning center that faces Temple City Boulevard, and apparently I did not see it. I got there after the commotion started, and apparently the student from the learning center was riding a bike. Of course, on the sidewalk, came out on the sidewalk,
We know that.
went past that place.
So the accident was on the north end of the
Going- the car
alley
was
approaching
going-
Woodruff?
Car was going north,
Okay,
and the bicyclist was going from the learning center west.
east to west, yeah.
And I did see the mangled bike. I left because I don't need to see that. And I came back later. The bike was still there. People were speculating how they were going to get this child to medical care. They were thinking maybe a helicopter could land in the Alpha Beta slab. I don't know how they removed the child. I did see the bike. Somebody from the city, and I don't remember his name because it's been a lot of years ago, was there looking, just after everything was over, looking at the situation. And I walked down that alley and I looked at that sign, and the person from the city was standing there, and I said, it's a big stop sign. Nobody ever stops at the stop signs at the end of a parking lot, an alley, or whatever. I see it all the time in the parking lot. The alley in back of Apollo, on the corner of Camellia and Las Tunas. Nobody stops. They wait until they get to the street and stop. So it does happen.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Jerry?
Good evening, council members. Jerry Jambazian, 9136 Las Tunas. I'm just wondering, was the alley between Primrose and Cloverly ever discussed or brought up as a concern, being a one-way alley going east and west?
Which way? Primrose and?
Between Primrose and Cloverly.
Not part of this.
Not part of this.
I realize that, but was it ever discussed, since it is a one-way alley?
By whom?
By Trans Tech or any, I mean, you're looking at four
Right.
that are all going north and south, but I'm thinking of the one going east and west.
I don't believe, unless I don't believe that's been discussed.
Okay.
Is there? Apparently hasn't been brought to our attention until this evening.
So is it
Is there a
one-way,
problem
Jerry?
there that you would like to point out?
Well, it's basically the same thing. It's one way.
It's an east-west one-way.
Yes,
There's
not
quite a
north,
few.
south.
There's quite a few.
Yeah,
East, west, one way.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? If not, I will, Jim? Come on up,
Come on.
raise your hand.
All
All right.
right.
Please
Okay,
state your
Jim.
name.
Jim Clifton. For the sake of disclosure, I am on the Transportation and Public Safety Commission. A little bit of history on how this all came about. I was driving home one night from one of these meetings, and my high beams caught these new signs that we never knew about. So at our next Transportation and Public Safety Commission meeting, I asked about it. And the fellow who was in charge at the time said that this was I forgot if you call it proactive, or it was like an emergency measure, because several residents had complained about speeding or, some type of traffic violations in those alleys. And that's how the signs were put up. And at the time, there was no other reason as far as if any studies were made. So, of course, we brought it up as an issue, and that's why we're here tonight. TransTech did their study, and it was very good. We reviewed it and everything. And I'm of the opinion that they should remain, or they should revert back to two-way, because that's the way the ones in the rest of the city are. And they're...
Well, we just heard that
Yeah.
that's not true. We
A lot
know of another one now we
Well,
just heard
well,
about.
that one, that's an east-west one that wasn't part of this study. These were changed, and that's why we're discussing them tonight. And the other thing, as far as parking goes, I believe if you park on private property completely, your vehicle is legal. If it's on a public right-of-way, we have to determine what that is in the alley, then it is a violation, and the vehicle could be ticketed. And we're only discussing these alleys, so I guess if we're going to be putting no parking signs or speed limit signs, then maybe that would eventually have to be done to all the other alleys. So I believe if they were just reverted back to the two-way like they were, but we leave the speed bumps on these because obviously people were concerned about it in these locations, that would work. Point was made up tonight that there was a car versus a bicycle, someone riding on there. And I don't know if the bicyclist was on the sidewalk or on the street, but if the bicyclist was on the sidewalk, that's illegal. So that was part of the responsibility there. I always hate to hear about those, especially when kids are involved, but you have to take responsibility for yourself. And the alley that Jerry mentioned is indeed one-way going east. And why it's that way, I don't know. But that's the one east-west alley that goes one way. But that was not part of this study that TransTech did, because we were just discussing the north-south ones, which had the new signage on them. And that's basically it from me.
It seemed to be a common theme. We have a lot of one-way alleys. We just don't know how they became one-way alleys.
Yes, and that was also a case way back in the early days of our commission with some of the painted curbs. Completely different topic, but you have to have an ordinance to have the curbs painted whatever colors they are. And some of them apparently had been done just at request of residents back in the day. So
Okay, now you touched upon, I just want to make sure I understand. The reason why this is coming up is because there were residents complaining about speeding on the alley? So
Yes.
Any other complaints?
Not that we know. That was the reason that was given to us, because like I say, we never saw anything about them being proposed. Just like I say, one night driving home, I see these brand-new shiny signs there in my headlights.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I will close public comment and now open it up for council comment. Who would like to begin? Anyone?
I'll go.
All right, Councilmember Fish?
I hate to admit that there were a couple of these alleys that I've never driven down. So I took a little field trip and I drove down all 4 of these alleys. And I didn't see a problem with them being one way. Most of them are wide enough for 2-lane traffic. The one thing I did notice was a very large amount of residential residences there, and garages and backyards, which I had really no idea that these people were entering through these alleys. And I think it must be there's no one here to support this, but I can only think that it must be very inconvenient to have to drive all the way around the block every single time. Now, the parking, I don't know. Again, that's another issue. This is just for the one-way.
So,
Like I said, I would, because it doesn't sound like it was ever really done the right way to begin with. And we don't have any documentation. We don't know why it was done, why it was turned into one-way. I think it should go back to two-way. Am I correct in saying that for it to go back to two-way, all we would really have to do, we have to do take the signs down, but no, I'm talking about the ordinance.
As the city attorney stated, the legislative action that you have to take, which could be either a resolution or ordinance. There is a resolution tonight that
Okay.
meets the specifications.
But there is not an ordinance that is making it one way.
No,
I'm very confused.
since the city didn't adopt an ordinance or a resolution
So-
when it put up the signs,
Okay.
one of your options tonight is simply to direct the staff to take down the signs.
Okay.
Then the alleys go back to
Just by taking the
what,
signs down.
that's right, what they were before, sort of unregulated except under the vehicle code, which imposes sort of a general 15-mile-an-hour speed limit that doesn't have to be posted, and it's two-way traffic.
Okay.
If you want to regulate the alleys above and beyond that,
Correct.
you want to make sure that it's one-way traffic, or you feel the need to ensure that it's two-way traffic, or you
Okay.
want to impose parking, or you want to be able to enforce a local ticket for
So either
50
way, we
mile an
have
hour.
to do it.
You
Correct,
want-
because it wasn't
If
done
you
right.
want to be able to have your sheriff's department or code officers cite people, you need to have some local ordinance or resolution to refer to.
So if we took the signs down, it would automatically become two-way.
It-
We could
it
then
was
notify
before.
the residents and tell them that it is two-way, and then we could hear from them if they wanted to change it back to a one-way, because it isn't really a one-way. Is that
That's an
correct?
option.
That's correct, right?
That's right,
It's not an enforceable one way.
Exactly.
correct.
So either way, we have to enforce either two-way or one-way. Because it's not an enforceable one-way right now. Correct?
Well, you-
Do you have any other, are there, is
I
that
don't
it?
know.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, why don't we go ahead and move
I
on?
just want to make sure that have
All right,
this.
well, think about it and we'll.
No,
go
that's
to someone else.
correct, right?
All right, I believe so.
All right.
All right, William?
Just to
I'm
build
sorry,
on,
Councilmember May.
just to build on what Councilmember Fish said, it seems like it wasn't done correctly, and TransTech's report also states that with the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices guidelines, that a thorough investigation should be done to really change the direction of traffic anyway. So it seems like that's what this report is. Now we have the actual study before us, and the recommendation before us is to make it a two-way alley. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm in favor of changing it back for a couple of reasons. If I were imagining myself to be a resident living in those alleyways, it would seem kind of ridiculous to do that giant loop around just to be able to get in. And I've driven through those alleys by accident because I was trying to get out of the parking lots. And so I end up on the alley and I go, oh, this is interesting. Because, I mean, I had no other reason to really go through those alleys. And I guess the other thing that that I was thinking about is, in terms of public safety, especially what Councilmember Sternquist had talked about with, exiting out of the alley onto Woodruff. I mean, in a lot of private parking lots and other areas where you have narrow turns, we have those mirrors that are kind of affixed onto either corners of sides of buildings. I don't know if that's an option or if that's even necessary, or would that even help the public safety? Because that at least allows the car to kind of see what's around a sharp turn. But
I have a question though.
yeah.
I don't know who I'm addressing this to. Is the issue that they're not stopping? Or they're stopping and pulling out? I mean, we can't make people stop.
The issue is the visibility is not conducive to not having something, maybe just like a yellow marking that you can
They have that.
see.
They have to.
Not
No,
on-
they don't.
No, they don't.
The issue really is people not stopping where they should have
Oh,
stopped and pulling
okay.
in all
So
the
you're
way
talking
in
about
front of the
striping
apron,
it
yes.
where the stop sign is.
So the question is really
Okay,
is, should we put a
that's-
stop bar there?
Yeah, because they
That's not an
can't, they
issue.
don't, they
Yeah, that's-
cannot see, so even if you're going 15 miles per hour,
Mhm.
you're gonna go out so
Mhm.
that you can look both ways. And whether or not, it's legal or not legal for kids to be riding a bike, they do it, as do adults. And we have a lot of bike riders in our city. And I see more and more riding bikes on the sidewalk. And, I've been guilty of riding a little bit on the sidewalk at times to get to, because our sidewalks end and then you don't have a sidewalk anymore, so.
Yeah, but on that point, I mean, even if you do stripe it as a stop sign, like Colleen had mentioned, people don't stop even if there's a stop sign. Especially, I mean, you see it all the time in parking lots. People put stop signs in private parking lots and people blow right through those. So I guess what I'm saying is there's some additional safety measure we can take in addition to that. I mean, that's not the recommendation before us right now, but
Right.
maybe
I
that's
think there's-
something to consider.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. But if we're just talking about the two-way, right, which is what we're basically deciding.
Okay. We have any more comments?
Yes, my
Okay,
turn. Well, old habits are hard to break, and I've lived in this city 37 years, and I have to say that I turn left off of Primrose going south and forget that there's even a one-way sign there. So I'm really glad they're not enforceable. But I never really understood why we had the one-way signs put up. I think they were just for some reason, an added means of addressing the concerns about safety. And so I think it was with very good intent. I just really never paid attention to it. I don't think I really paid attention to it until we had our one-on-ones, and you mentioned that it was going to the Public Safety Commission. The speed humps, yes. I was very aware of the speed humps, and I think they slow me down, and I'm grateful that they are there. So I think the speed humps should stay. If the bar at the corner, like you said, William, or the mirrors do add some safety precautions, then I think that's great. I think one accident where a child gets hit and dragged and has to be airlifted to a hospital is one too many, so anything we could do. Yes, it is adults and children's responsibility, as it is mine, to not go down the wrong way on a one-way street, but it happens more than probably, we would like to. So anything we can do to mitigate the people from driving fast on those alleys. And I'm very aware of the Primrose and Temple City one because I have tenants who live on that, in that building there, and they tell me that there are quite a few mishaps of people having to stop suddenly because a child has come on a bike or what have you. So anything I think we can do to help the situation. But I have no problem with eliminating the faux one-way roads,
Thank you.
alleyways.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the issue before us is really about whether or not the alley needs to be one way or two ways. It was supposedly an issue brought before the city because of alleged speeding. I think the fact that we have already installed a speed hump had largely addressed that question. I do not believe with the length of the alley before us that there's really a need for 2 speed humps, even though
I think the recommendation was 3.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, so adding the addition of 2. Whereas I thought that the recommendation put forward, at least at this meeting on the report, in addressing Councilmember Sternquist's observation of people pulling too far forward, by adding a stop bar, I think that's worth our consideration. Yeah, granted, going to Councilmember Mann's point, if people don't follow signs, don't follow rules, don't follow, so yeah, there's not much we can do about that. I mean, people need to learn how to follow rules. I think having a stop bar there will help with the visibility of where people need to stop. I believe the case brought forth by the kid got hit, that was because he was riding his bike on the sidewalk. Nobody should be riding their bike on the sidewalk. Unfortunately, people do that. But that's an issue that I think need to be addressed separately, either by mirror or other means, or by seriously ticketing people riding on sidewalk, I think that's a separate issue. What before us is really whether or not we should go back to the, since it's unenforceable anyway, should we just go back to the two-way? I believe I can support that. The speed sign, you know, again, it's a fairly short distance, and by vehicle code, it's deemed to be 15 miles anyway. I'm not sure we're going to get a lot of attention anyway. With the stop bar, I think that is sufficient. As far as parking, you know, I would agree with some of the comments made. If it's private property, I mean, you can park there. So I have no problem with I think it's one of those situations, unless it's not working, unless we're getting complaints, unless we're seeing traffic being backed up, I don't think we need to add anything to it. And again, I want to point out to the consistency with many other alleys in the city. And if we were to start putting speed signs, putting speed humps, putting things, other additional safety devices, I think we need to be consistent. So if we were going to put stop bars on this one, I would recommend us starting to look at maybe we should put stop bars on other ones as well. So those are my, so but
Okay.
but as far as this removing the one-way and going back to two-way the way it should have been, I'm in support of that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have a couple of concerns with this report. My first concern is I don't really think it's addressing everything. We're looking at 4 alleys. For some reason, and the only reasons I've heard tonight are speeding and the question of stopping at the ends. But I'm not sure how turning it from a one-way street to a two-way street is going to alleviate those things. If people are going to speed on a one-way street, they're going to certainly speed on a two-way street. And if they're going to stop on a one-way street or not stop, it's going to do the same thing on a two-way street. I don't see how either of them really address those issues. So I'm concerned that this is only a Band-Aid, and we're not really looking at the deeper issues. How do we regulate, or what should we do with alleys perhaps throughout the city? Maybe this is the opportunity. This has brought forth the need for doing something like that. Because we know that if there's issues on these alleys, there's got to be issues on other alleys we just haven't heard from. Which brings up the next point, is I'm a little concerned and I'm a little disappointed that no notice was given to residents or businesses affected in this area. Yes, I know we post the agenda and I know those things are public records, but in the past, whenever we've had an event like this come forward and it's going to specifically affect people in that area, which this obviously does, we have a very short, small area. We have 4 alleyways. We know the residents that live there. We know the businesses that abut up to that. I don't think that would have been too much to ask to give them notice, to hear them come and talk. I appreciate the speakers that we had tonight, but I don't know that any of those live on any of these alleys. And the insights that they could give to us, whether they believe speeding's a problem, what is the problem in these alleys, what do we really need to do? And I think just turning it from a one-way street to a two-way street, although that sounds easy to do, really isn't going to address the underlying problems that we have here. And that is, if there is speeding, if there is a failure to stop, what are the things that we have to do to mitigate that? The only things that I see that are here tonight in our report that mitigate would be to remove the signs and then, some humps and some signs. But there's been some good suggestions tonight. The stop bars, perhaps the mirrors, a lot of other things that perhaps we can look at to make this, even if we're truly looking at it as a safety issue, to make it a safe issue. I'm not sure that putting it from one-way to two-way is not going to just create more traffic issues. It sounds to me like they're already using it as a two-way, so why not take this opportunity to really take a look at the bigger picture here? But, I understand what's before us, but I just think we're missing the opportunity to look at other things. And I'm not really convinced by the photos I've seen here that there are areas where 2 lanes in each direction are going to work. It seems to me, and maybe it's just the way the pictures are taken, that some of those alleys have a narrower part than others. I know that they've got that, and then there's a question of that natural divider, which is that water, I don't know what you call it, what is it, a water gutter? Or
Gutter.
something? Yeah, it seems like it's not really always down the center, and so are we gonna put striping there to designate the two-way traffic? I mean, it's just a whole bunch of things that come to my mind that we probably should be doing, but are not. So I'm just a little concerned of, that maybe we're looking at it too narrowly.
Mayor Chavez, a good suggestion by the city attorney, I'll let him explain, is that the resolution before you is a bit vague, and based on the feedback that we've gotten today from the council, it may necessitate us kind of going back, kind of getting some general direction, coming back, and then refining the resolution a little bit more. And if it is the direction of the council to look a little bit broader at the alleys, and maybe come back at a later date with some broader policy suggestions.
Well, at least look at all the so-called one-way alleys. If we're gonna look at 4 one-way alleys, we already heard tonight that there's another one, even though it's east-west, it's still a one-way alley. And if we're gonna have some consistency, we can't have turn one-way alleys into 2 ways and then keep these over here. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, understood, and if that's the direction of the council tonight, we can do that, but with the suggestion that City Attorney Vail has made to kind of, based on the feedback that we've gotten from you tonight and we've heard from the public, it would probably, in hearing what your direction is, refining that resolution a little bit more, and then we can take a look, and I'll work with staff to kind of define the scope of what that investigation and that kind of census of the alleyways look like. Off the top of my head, I don't even know the miles of alleyways we have here in the city. I know it's kind of a mixed bag throughout, and some residential areas have none. Some residential areas have some. I'm getting better familiarity with the city.
Well, and then you have some alleys that have dead ends.
Yes, exactly.
So I mean, how do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question, Mr. Mayor. Based on what some of your comments, I was going to suggest that if we're going to consider these 4 alleys, that we notify the residents so they have a chance to speak out on something that impacts them. But if we're going to open it up to alleys in general in the city and having a general policy, I wasn't really sure to just notify, because that means the entire city needs to be notified.
Well, what I would suggest is if that's the route we want to take, that we probably kick it back to the public safety and traffic to look at that, because that's really their job.
Right.
Okay, we're getting a very specific area, and not that that's bad, but I don't know, based on what we have here, why we're even doing this, other than because somebody did it one way, now we're just gonna change it back. But we've got nothing from the public, we've got, I just think we need to flesh this out a little bit more, and I think that the Traffic and Safety Commission should maybe go back and take a better look at this. That would be my suggestion, anyway.
The code allows you, as has been stated, the flexibility in order to make the kind of you have more discretionary decision making. So is there an immediate urgency? I wouldn't say, does the council have to make a decision tonight?
I haven't heard anything tonight that would lead me to believe that there's any immediate safety problems or dangers. Certainly none of them come up other than the one accident that we heard about, but we don't know how that occurred. I mean, I think as Mayor Pro Tem pointed out, we shouldn't have bike riders riding on the sidewalk. Of course, we should have people looking to where they're driving too. Accidents happen. That's just the way it happens. But, hopefully that will not continue, but it doesn't seem to be a pattern at this point. So I don't see the immediacy unless anybody else does.
No.
Well, I think this resolution needs a little bit more fleshing out. I would agree with our city attorney that it is a little vague, and it's certainly based on the things that we've heard tonight. Maybe we need to take another look at it. Perhaps staff could, however you feel it more comfortable. If you feel that you have enough, if you want to just bring it back to us to just go ahead and make the policy decisions at that time, we'll do that. If you feel that it needs more down in the trenches type work, then my recommendation would be to send it back to public safety.
Mayor Chavez, Director Forbes and I will kind of talk about that tomorrow morning and see where that kind of plays out with this specific issue at hand. So my gut feeling is that I think we'll, based on your direction and some observations in the field and the council's comments, I think we'll have enough to work through that and
All
bring
right,
you back something
all
back.
right, whatever you feel comfortable, that's fine. Is that okay with the rest of the council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if Director Forbes wants to
Did you want-
have
did
some
you want to say
remarks
anything?
for us.
Director
Oh,
Forbes?
No, I was gonna, to answer your question from earlier, Mr. Mayor, I think you're thinking about this right, that asking the question, why are we here? And I think the short answer to that is that there really are no problems in this alley or any alley that we've identified. And the reason that we're looking at these 4 alleys is because previous staff tried to solve a problem that, from as near as we can tell, wasn't there. So to undo that problem, rather than just going and undoing it, we wanted to go through the proper process to undo that. So that's why we're focused on these 4 alleys, is because for whatever reason, something was done here previously. But I think TransTech's view and staff's view is that the residents and businesses have not made us aware of any problems in this alley or any alley, frankly. So we don't really see that there's a problem. But the reason that we're bringing this to you is to undo what was previously done. So that's why we're focusing on these 4 alleys and no others, because this is where that action was taken
Yeah,
before.
and I appreciate it, I understand that, but perhaps then this is the opportunity
Sure.
to maybe clean up all that mess at once, rather than take it a step at a time. It wouldn't make much sense to me that we do any resolutions or anything that affect 4 specific alleys when we have 3 or 4 others that we're not really aware of at this point that maybe need to be addressed too. Let's do it all at once, maybe. That's just my only concern, and that old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? But it seemed to be broke, and now we're trying to break. I don't know, it's just, the confusion, I think, is how do we get to that point? But that's always going to be a mystery, I suppose.
Well, I
But we'll
mean-
get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to look at alleys in a bigger sense, then the easy answer would be, I think what the city attorney said earlier, is don't adopt a resolution tonight and just direct staff to go take down the
Yeah.
signs that weren't properly installed to begin with, and then we can look at everything in a bigger sense, more comprehensively.
Yeah, at least for now, I think focus on those one-ways. That seems to be the immediate issue. Yeah. Okay? All right, so do we need what do we want to do then? A motion to continue this or put this over?
If you'd like staff to take down the existing one-way signs, we would need a motion and with direction to the city manager to make that happen. And then you could table this, continue it, ask for this item to be brought back in a more comprehensive
My
way
only concern,
later
and maybe
on.
you can address this, is from a liability standpoint, if we take those signs down, is that going to cause more or less confusion than just keeping the status quo until we find out what we're really going to do and how we're going to do it?
I never recommend that you maintain any sign that hasn't been appropriately approved and installed.
Okay, and that describes these.
And that's these.
Okay,
My recommendation is that you take them down.
okay.
Or that you order us to bring back a resolution or an ordinance to put them in place.
Now, if we take them down, shouldn't that be followed up with some type of communication? I think as Councilmember Mann suggested, to at least advise, or, I mean, just taking them down seems to
Absolutely.
not be really the
No,
good way of
you
doing
would need to provide some communication to your residents and business owners who are going to be affected or have been affected by those signs and use those alleys.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion based on the representations of the city attorney?
I would, Mr. Mayor. I will move that the council direct city staff to take down the 4 signs at the 4 alleys discussed tonight, and also further direct the city manager to bring the matter of alleys back at some time in the future when staff has sufficient time to study this issue.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Fish?
Yes.
Councilmember Mann?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Chavez?
Yes. Okay. With that, we will now move on to item 10B, which is an introduction and first reading of ordinance number 15-1003, amending municipal code section 26C5 to reduce the size of the Public Arts Commission. Mr. City Manager, will there be presentation on this?
The report is complete.
Okay, so everyone's had a chance to read the report. I will then open it up to council discussion. Are there any council questions at this time? Seeing none, I will then open up to public comment. I have 2 public comment speaker request forms. First of all, I have a request form from Mary Ann Ratchford. Is Mary Ann here?
Good evening, council members. I want to thank you for letting me speak here tonight.
Good evening.
Dr. Mariana Ratchford. I'm a professor at Citrus College and adjunct faculty at Azusa Pacific University. I'm also on the Art Commission here. And while I have this microphone, I want to thank you guys for putting a stop sign, a 4-way stop at Encinitas and Longden. It's been needed for decades. Thank you very much for having that done. Okay.
You're welcome.
Now, yes, I want to, a little bit of history on our Art Commission. We've been working now for a couple of years, and we are finally coalescing into a cohesive group that's being able to establish ad hoc committees. And on the ad hoc committees, because we have 7 members on the commission, we can have ad hoc committees with 3 individuals. If we go down to 5 members, then we can only have 2 people on ad hoc committees. We're going to have a harder time getting the ad hoc committees to work together and to get that, and we need more and more of these because we kind of came in the middle of the Rosemead project, and we kind of inherited it, and we weren't really sure what we were doing. Now we're learning what we need to do, and we're working on our second project, which is the mural over here at the library, and we really need to have 7 members on the committee and not make it go down to 5. And that's just my recommendation. Because of my position at the college and the university, I've been on a lot of different committees, and this is just my professional recommendation that we stay at this time to 7 members. If in a couple of years or in a year, when we do come up again and we're going to lose some members and they're going to have to be replaced, then maybe address the issue at that time that maybe we go down to 5. But at this point, we're still a fledgling commission. We're still learning what we're doing. And it helps if we have a number that is more, brings more people into the mix.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see, I think I've heard this name mentioned a couple of times. Carl Bloom? How are you doing, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm
Former
Carl
mayor.
Bloom, 6224 North Hart Avenue, Temple City. I think Mary Ann basically stated a large part of what I wanted to say. You know, just a little bit background, even further back than she had. You know, when we started this out, you know, we put a council ad hoc together, and Councilmember Viscara and myself were on it, starting the public art program. We had the Public Art Advisory Group set this whole thing up. We moved towards a commission. We originally were looking at 5 members. You know, we ran into a problem in the beginning, not having the right combination of people on there, so we expanded to 7. I think ultimately we should go back to 5, but I think it's premature at this point. I think for some of the reasons that Mary Ann said, I don't think the commission, the functioning of the commission is all the way matured the way we intended it to do. So I think they need a little more time, whether it's a year or 2 more years before we go back to consider going back to 5. But I think it's premature, and I would just recommend that you basically receive this report, put it in your hip pocket, have it ready to go and I think you'll know when the right time is to do that. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other comments from the public? Okay, then I'm going to close public comment, and we'll now move on to council comment. Would anybody like to comment on this issue? No one? No? Okay, well.
Just one
Right.
comment, I guess. And it's the same comment that Councilmember Sternquist had raised during our last discussion. And I think it's worth at least bringing that forward again, is Councilmember Sternquist had mentioned that when the Public Arts Commission was initially formed, there was a large interest in the process applying for the commissions. I believe we had a lot of applicants, double digits. And I think one aspect of it that resonated with me was the fact that we don't really like to turn people away from serving the community. But at the same time, I also understand that there's this pretty, in my opinion, a glaring inconsistency with the rest of our commissions. And the number of commissioners, I think, reflects the amount of work that they're actually putting in. Like, for example, when I was on the GPAC, it was initially a 7-member committee. And then eventually, the council expanded it to 13. And that's because the GPAC was tackling a very large, complex issue, something that we hadn't done since the 80s. I just think it's worth at least mentioning that portion, that as a city, we are appreciative of so many people taking an interest, especially in public art, because public art is something that I think we as a city has already identified as a strategic goal moving forward. So we're committed to furthering that goal.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Just a couple of comments. First of all, I appreciate Dr. Ratchford and former Mayor Bloom coming here tonight and giving their input. To a certain extent, I understand where you're coming from. Yes, there's something to be said for cohesiveness and a group working together. There's no question about that. I recall when we first set this commission up, it was a rather unique commission, and we recognized the uniqueness of it, and I think that was part of the thinking that went into expanding it to a larger committee than our other commissions. But we always knew that at some point we were going to take a look at it, and I tend to recall that we even discussed that at the time, that we would come back and take a look at it. When that is anybody's guess. Are we premature? I don't know. I do know, however, that the commission seems to be working well, and I say that only from the standpoint that in looking at the attendance of this commission I have the records for the past 9 months. Only once has the entire commission been present in those 9 months, only one time. And on only five of the 9, there were only 5 members. One time there was only 4. So I understand, and I for whatever reasons, and one of the things that we look at in council is the attendance, because these volunteers are there to obviously assist us, and all we ask is that they be present and do what they need to do. And we don't do that just for the Public Arts Commission, of course. We look at all the commissions from that standpoint. As Council Member Mann mentioned, there's a large interest. There's no question there's a large interest in this commission. In fact, I was going to discuss that a little later on, but just to give you the idea, the numbers, we've had 19 applications for the Public Arts Commission alone this time. But all the commissions are the same, 16, 17, 18. So all our commissions have a large amount of interest, not just the Public Arts Commission. And they seem to work with 5 members. And, you know, we had a lot of discussion on this at the last meeting. I don't want to go over it and rehash it again, the pluses and minuses of that. It just seems, you know, a time when, and no time is perfect, but, you know, is this the time? And based on what I see as far as the attendance, you know, I think that this commission can work very well with 5 rather than 7. It's not always the number, of course, it's the people that you have in there. And right now, I would have to say we have a great amount of people there. But, you know, I know that you know, one has dropped off. We have another that didn't reapply. So there are, you know, it is kind of, I guess, weeding itself down to really the amount of people that are going to be on there. So at this point, again, I really don't have a compelling reason that I can think of, or one that's been given to me, to keep it different from our other commissions. So with that, if anybody would like to make a motion at this time, or if there's any further comment. Yes.
I just want to say that the only thing pretty much that, well, I mean, it's significant to me is from the last meeting when I said, why don't we just kind of let the process, you know, go naturally, maybe people wouldn't apply. And then we had 19 applications that we've been looking at and a lot of very qualified people. But looking at the attendance record really made a significant difference in my mind that the commission hasn't had 7 people attending for quite some time. So I think that really speaks to me about if the time is right, then maybe now is the time since people aren't showing up.
Okay, thank you. Well, do we have a motion? Anybody? Don't all jump up at once.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to reduce the number from 7 to 5 commissioners for our Public Art Commission.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any objection? Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Mayor, before you vote, can I
Yes.
just clarify the motion?
Okay, sure can.
The motion would be to introduce ordinance number 15
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not, I should know better than that. Huh?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You have to give me something to
You
do
know,
now
I'm
and
trying,
again.
yeah, you know, we wanted to test and see if you were awake.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah, I know, it's, all right, so look, this is the
This is
motion
it,
you want to
right?
make.
Okay,
yeah.
I'd like to introduce the ordinance number 15-1003 for the first reading by title only.
Okay, go on.
Waive further readings of ordinance number 15-1003 and set the second reading of ordinance number 15-1003 for May 19th, 2015.
Okay, then we will take a roll call vote and then we'll have the reading. Or do you want the reading first? I think, at least in my notes, we take the roll call vote first. So let's take a roll call vote on the motion. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, we had a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Well,
All right, we have a second. All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Fish,
yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem You?
Yes.
Mayor Chavez.
Yes. Okay, if I could ask the city clerk to read title ordinance for first reading by title only.
Ordinance number 15-1003, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Tupelo City amending Municipal Code Section 2635, reducing size of the Public Arts Commission from 7 to 5 members.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 11, communications, none. Item 12, update from city manager.
Mayor Chavez, members of the council, since City Attorney Vale took up all my time at the last meeting, I'll take all of his time then during
He
this
gets
meeting.
nothing tonight.
So there's a few items I teased,
Okay,
but
go ahead.
a
Keep in
couple.
mind, we have a closed session still.
Yes, I'll be brief, sir.
I'm just giving you a hard time. Go ahead.
There has been a few items in the press recently about some surrounding cities and some of the practices related to capital improvement projects, expenditure of funds. One of the things I want to assure both the council and the members of the public that are here and listening via the web is that we take the process of looking at how we expend funds, the manner in which the council authorizes those expenditure of funds, be if they're just a general professional services contract or they are a capital improvement project. There are a couple layers, very distinct layers of due diligence and protection that lie within a couple areas. One is the state has a lot of codes related, and council members Mann and Mayor Pro Tem Yu in their respective professions, and our former council member Bloom know this. Within the state code, the public contract code specifically lays out the manner in which city employees, once you've authorized a project, can move forward with change orders, expenditure of funds, and expanding a scope of work. For example, if you dig up a roadway, and you probably found this during Rosemead Boulevard, you find that there's an immediate issue that's there, that if it's not taken care of at that moment, you have to deal with it or it's going to be more costly. There are mechanisms in place both on the state level and within our municipal code that allow us to address that issue, but then come back to you and say, we found this situation that had to be mitigated immediately, and we had to deal with those issues. Now, when we're talking about expansion of scope, it's very clear what the guidelines are, both on the state level, what the state mandates us to do, and what we have under our municipal code. Third issue, luckily we're a small city. We have about, plus or minus about a $14 million budget. You have 3 former finance directors sitting in the city, myself, our current finance director, and one of our staff members that work in the finance department. So we look, and for example, the warrant register you see today, I look at every single item. It's not time consuming because we have enough time. We're a small city, and that's one of the beauties of being small is that we have the chance to take a look. Are there some things we can tweak? Absolutely. For example, when the issue that came up in the city of Pasadena came up, we took a look at our processes again, and there was a few things that we did with special check runs that we've tweaked. We will look at some processes again, and Ms. House and I have talked about a couple processes that we'll do, and that has to do with carryover of funds, and it won't happen during this immediate fiscal year, but it'll happen in the next fiscal year. More is to track the flow of activity so that you have a sense, and I've talked to all of you about this, is about how you scope a project is really critically important. So you know, here's the scope of the project, and here's the reasonable amount of money that we need to expend in order to do that project. So I want to, and having been a former finance director myself, is there a system that is absolutely 100% fraud-proof? No. Do we have to do the reasonable things that we can to make sure that it never happens? Absolutely. And we do that. And I have as much confidence as a person can have knowing that, we have enough safeguards in place, protections, tweaks we can always continuously do to ensure that. So I know there's been a lot of articles in the press in the last couple months about that, and I just wanted to address that. And I know a couple council members in your fiduciary responsibility have also brought that to my attention, and we're keenly aware. Second thing is we really are a customer service oriented. If we do anything, we're service oriented. We are customer service oriented. So to that extent, each member of the staff has this book that I gave. It's called The Science of Service by Wendy Brick. Wendy will actually be doing an all-day session, 2 sessions tomorrow on customer service training and specifically customer service in the public sector. There's not anything wrong with the Disney way of looking at customer service. There's nothing wrong with that, but we don't have shareholders. We have our constituents that we are responsible for. For the constituent who has no money, doesn't have a house, but still demands the respect and dignity as they come into the door of getting a level of service that they deserve. To the person who owns 15 homes and it does not matter. We have to provide a level of service and provide it with a level of dignity and respect regardless of who walks in the door, and from the homeless person who walks in the door, to provide a level of service. So tomorrow we're going to be doing that in 2 sessions with all of our employees.
Will be she signing her book, or should we bring that in? Or?
No, I guess you
Book
can,
signing?
but
No?
possibly.
All
We'll
right.
see. We'll see what happens. Third thing, real quick, is water. And I went, as you know, I went to Sacramento last Wednesday for about a day. Water is a big concern, and City Attorney and I were talking about this during our meetings that we have before council meetings about some of the ambiguity that is still out there related to water issues and the water consumption. So 2 things you've asked during the last council meeting is, 1, we are pulling together the meeting with all the water agencies that service Temple City. 2 have already proactively come to us, and we've talked about some things we can do. One of the things we've done already, you've probably seen this in the city of Arcadia, their medians are starting to go brown. Well, I put it in the city
What
manager.
does that mean?
They are not watering.
Like their meetings or?
They're medians.
Oh, medians. I thought
Sorry,
you said
sorry,
their
Mr. Mayor.
medians are going brown. I go,
Brown
what
bag
does that mean? Medians are going brown?
Sorry.
Right.
They're
We get no
median.
water bottles at the meeting or what?
No, sir.
All right.
Their landscape medians are
Medians, okay.
are not being watered. We're going to be, because one of our highest water usages is for the medians on Baldwin. The trees that there are established, we will monitor them. We may do some periodic, I guess they call it deep watering. So we'll, if in case we see some issues with it, and if you haven't, I drove by it today. They're already
Is that
starting.
because there are a lot of grass on those medians?
Yes, and the regulations speak to ornamental turf, and if anything looks close to like ornamental turf, it is it is the grass on those medians. The ones along Rosemead,
I was going to say, what about, or no?
we have a lot of drought tolerant and landscaping along there, and we have some irrigation that kind of, it's not all drip irrigation, but it meets a better standard of use than the medians that you see that have been around since probably the 1980s or so. So that's going on. That is an ever-evolving issue. During my time in Sacramento for that day, two issues that came up: water, and you're going to be seeing a preview of this when you get your packet on the proposed draft budget. Is gas tax. Gas tax is going down by about 20% from the prior fiscal year. There's a couple reasons for that. One, there was a mechanism that was introduced during the 2011-2012 state budget, which tweaked the formula related to gas tax, and secondarily, people are consuming less gas. So there is going to be a substantial change on a go-forward basis. There's a working group now that's going to look, and we can all suspect within the next 2 to 3 years, there may be a substantial change in gas tax in the way that they look at that.
But doesn't that include Brown's decision to take some of that gas tax and use it elsewhere? So there's some political issues that deal with that.
You're absolutely right.
And yet gas prices keep going up.
It's a very confusing.
So I don't understand.
It is a very confusing and not straightforward. Ms. House actually put in the memo you'll see from me. Ms. House put a really good explanation of that, what happened. But essentially, you're right, Mr. Mayor. That was a shift, another subvention shift. Subvention meaning money that local governments should be getting from the state to pay for roadway services or whatever comes to our general fund. Another subvention shift, another takeaway from locals by the state. So, did you, Mr. Mayor?
I think there was something that was passed to prevent him from taking money from borrowing gas tax anymore.
Well, they're trying to pass that, I think.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not passed yet.
Prop 1A.
But however, there is a real hit because there was about 6 months where gas tax really gone down.
Yep.
Because even my department, the county public works, is actually we're talking about even cutting back staff, perhaps, and actually canceling projects. It's a real hit to all municipalities.
Absolutely.
It seems that the state is very good at coming up with ways to take money from things that they aren't supposed to take money from.
Right.
Prop 1.
And making you do things that
Yeah.
with no money.
You know, I know a fund they can get it from. There's this little train they're trying to build. billions of dollars, amazing. All right, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No problem, sir.
We digress for the political issues, I guess, huh?
What Mayor Pro Tem used, kind of speaking to is Proposition 1A, which was passed many years ago, but it provides clarity on sales tax, property tax, and VLF. Other subventions have a level of vulnerability that can be looked at a little bit differently. So, and we'll explain a little bit more in our budget memo to you. Lastly, the other issue that's come up is something that was mentioned earlier today with Mr. Hunter's presentation is a stormwater issue. The state, from a frustrating standpoint, the state is acting with the legislation that the council endorsed by State Senator Hernandez. It looks like it's making its way through the legislature and has support to move forward. But there will be some hoops, and there is, again, no funding attached to any of that. Just, we need, in this case, our bigger brother, the County of Los Angeles, who does, and, he has a cadre of experts and engineers that can really help cities, large and small, from Pasadena to us, in helping us work through that project. That legislation provides that mechanism for them to do that. Also, too, one other issue that's popping up is, they're looking at the taxation system a little bit differently. And as you know, where local government has done a great job of getting through recessions and doing a good job of balancing its budget, the state has struggled with that issue. And it looks like there may be some efforts to look how successful those efforts will be, but there's a push to look at sales tax, what is taxed, how it's taxed. There's been many efforts in the past. I've been through many iterations of those in my career also, but with the fluctuation of the tax base that the state is seeing and its vulnerability, and we'll see what Governor Brown supports or doesn't support, there's movement for that. So your presence up in Sacramento is well known. Everybody I walked through, they knew Temple City very well, especially our locals. So great job in keeping good, solid contacts with our local representatives. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we will now move on to update from the city attorney.
Nothing other than I'm going to be at the League of California City Attorney Department Conference in Monterey. It's a hard place to go. It's very tough.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Somebody's got to do it. So,
Somebody's got to do it.
when I come back, I'm sure I'll have wonderful things to advise you on from the conference. Thanks.
Well, have a safe trip. Okay, council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Does anyone have anything to report?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything to report, but I just want to let people know that there is a standing meeting of the Las Tunas Downtown Revitalization Standing Committee meeting this Friday at 11.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, anyone else? No? Just along those lines, there's also a City Code Review Standing Committee meeting that's on Friday, May 8th as well. 2:30. That's Councilmember Mann and myself, so that's gonna be a busy day.
For you, because you have to attend both.
Yeah, I'll go to the office for a while. Okay. Also, as we may have heard earlier, we have gotten in a lot of applications for our committees, both planning, public arts, transportation and safety, and public parks and recreation. We averaged about 18 applications for each of those commissions. So Council Member Sternquist and I will be meeting soon to review those applications and make recommendations and do interviews and get that all ready for the full council to make the final determination.
How many altogether? Close to 80.
Altogether, there's about almost 80, I believe. Which, is a double-edged sword. We encourage, and I really truly believe that our Citizens Academy has prompted a lot of people to pique their interest, to get involved. A lot of the things that they see that we're doing, people want to be involved in, so that's a good thing. The bad thing, of course, is that we have difficult decisions to make, and, you know, we have more than we have more qualified applicants than, of course, we can fill the spots for, but I guess that's a good problem to have. But we'll have more on that as we get through it. Okay, so then we'll move on to item 15, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda. Councilmember Fish.
Just a couple of things. I attended the Temple City Animal Hospital Open House. Great event, if anybody ever wants to go to that. And also, we had another very successful health fair, very well attended.
Did you do the run?
No.
Oh, okay. Just
Sorry.
wondering.
Our local resident, Helen Redmond, she spearheaded that. And I believe she told us she had about 500 walkers.
Good.
So it's really turning into a major event here in Temple City, so I'm really glad, happy for that. Wanted to thank Mary for our gifts, our beer, and our tamales.
See,
Thank you.
Tamales and beer. So
Tamales and beer.
Before anybody
Thank
gets all
you.
shook up,
I know.
there are these, which I've seen our city attorney and city manager over there didn't munching on them.
They've been eating them, and we
root beer.
might have to
Now,
have
Mary,
them
you know
all the
better,
time.
though. This should have been Diet A&W, you know. All right, that's okay.
So thank you, Mary.
Thank
And then, of course, conserve water.
Thank you.
What else?
Very good.
I finished
Okay.
it already, Mary.
Yeah. Councilmember Mann, you have anything?
Sure. Yeah, so happy Cinco de Mayo, and thank you, Mary, again, for your gift. Actually, a lot has gone on in the last couple of weeks. I'll just touch up on it really quickly.
Better get used to that.
Yeah. So I had a blast at St. Luke's Festival. That's always a great event to go to. It's great running into people there, and it's an event that people outside the city know about, and they're very envious of our city having a lot of these really, you know, hometown get-togethers, essentially. So that was a very enjoyable experience. I was also at the Temple City Animal Hospital Open House, and that was also a great event. I actually take my dog there to get shots.
Yeah, I was going to say, I take my cat there.
Yeah.
It's a very nice.
It's a very
nice-
first-class facility, and I really appreciate them opening it up.
They do a good job.
And related to that was there was just a small event for San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, and so I thought, being our liaison, I'd go
Good.
meet some people. And Barbara from the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society was very nice and accommodating, and I got to know her. And she was also at the school district walk-run fair.
Good.
They had a booth there, so saw her twice. And in fact, the pet of the month that they brought, that was the third time I saw the pet of the month.
Maybe
Well,
you should,
that might be, maybe
maybe
it's
a
a
reason
sign.
for that.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
a sign.
I'll have to consult with my wife.
Yeah, you better do that first.
Yeah, so that,
Okay.
besides that, that's all.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Sternquist.
Just one thing I wanted to bring to council's attention is I had lunch today with the mayor of Claremont, Corey Kaleke, and a few other council members from surrounding San Gabriel Valley cities. Everybody was bragging about their city and things that they were doing, and I was bragging about our city, and they were amazed that we had so many water companies. And they were talking about how hard it is to enforce the rules, and they just have one water company. I said, well, how would you like to have 5? They were pretty much in shock, and they said, well, if we could figure it out, to let them know. But anyway, if you get a chance, go on to the city of Claremont's, they have an app for smartphones, and it is just an amazing app. And I was thinking, if somewhere down the line we were looking at something to help with the younger people who use, you know, technology more frequently than some of us older folks, the app was amazing. You could go on. He showed me his app, and they have a list of all their council members, and so then you just, like, if I wanted Nan Fish, her picture comes up, and you can click her email, and it connects you to it, which was pretty cool. But they're reporting for problems in the city, whether it was potholes or a tree down, whatever it might be, a vehicle that's parked and abandoned and not being driven, whatever you want to report. You could just do it through the app, and it went directly to the city staff, which was awesome. It had a list of all the staff, the department heads, but just really something for us to take a look at. Now, he didn't have an idea of how much it cost, but he said the staff in-house did it with a couple of pretty techie people from other departments other than their PIO, actually. So maybe somehow we can take a look at their model and see if we can get that app for our smartphones.
I bet they're using, they bought the app and then just modified.
We've gotten those solicitations before.
A lot
I
of
think.
those.
So,
They're not too expensive? Or?
I don't know, I never inquired a cost, so that's something we're worth looking at perhaps in the future.
I look into it. Great.
But I'm always concerned, if going there, we're just catering to young people. There are many of us who don't use smartphones, so I don't want to leave people out. So.
Well, it's just, there's still people who don't use computers, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's another way to engage people in our cities. And I think it's pretty neat because most of us always have our phone with us these days anyway. So by the time I'd get home, I'd forget if I didn't have a pen where I saw something at, what was the address, but you could just pull over to the side and then, plug it in. So,
Okay, thank you.
nothing else. And
All right.
Mary, thanks. I've been nibbling on these and
Okay.
for a while.
Mayor Pro Tem, you?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay,
We still have
well-
a closed session ahead of us.
Yeah, we do. All right, well, I'll be brief. Just to reiterate, there are a lot of events that we've all been attending. It's been a very busy 2 weeks since we last met. Just want to remind everybody out there that the Youth Committee is still taking applications, and they'll be doing that till the end of May. And so if you know anybody in our youth who are interested in serving on that committee, and urge them to put an application. They can either pick it up at City Hall, or of course, as youth are, they would do it online. So, using a smartphone, perhaps.
There you go.
I did have the honor of attending the Cedars Los Angeles Rotary Club meeting last Sunday, and the reason I attended was it was honoring Carol Louisian, the artist who did our mosaics, and they were giving her an award, and they asked me to come to speak, to talk about her work here in Temple City, and she was very gracious and very well deserving, and got a chance to meet a lot of Lebanese people. The connection, of course, is Serge and Crystal Haddad, who serve on our commissions as well, and it was a nice evening. So I found out that she can sing as well. Not only does she do mosaics, but she's a singer. So that was interesting. But also had the chance to attend a really neat event. Some of you may be aware, and I wasn't aware until I was told about this, but we have a private school. It's called the Oasis Trilingual Community School.
Yes.
And they're actually,
They were in the Camilla
they were in the
Festival.
Camila Festival,
First
and they were
time
very
this year.
excited about that. They're a school right here. They're right here in the First Methodist, I think right behind us, Reverend Palmer or Pastor Palmer, and they hosted what they called a pre-published book signing day, and it was held up at the Westfield Mall. And what it is they had 10 of their students. This is a school that I believe goes from kindergarten to 6th grade, and a number of their students wrote short stories, and they're trying to get them published. And they're twofold. One is obviously to work on those writing skills, and the other is they're trying to break a Guinness Book of World Records for the youngest published authors, I guess. And so they think they have a good chance at it. It was a really nice event. Got a chance to meet the principal, who is Tamara Hernandez, very, very nice individual, and they're very progressive. And hopefully, I invited them to come to one of our meetings because Oasis Trilingual, they actually teach their students in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Mandarin. And I asked them to come and maybe and at this event they did it, the Pledge of Allegiance in all 3 languages. So I thought that was pretty cool to listen to us. So they're going to come, hoping in the future, to do that for us. So very nice group of people. So a shout out to them, and Lily Newman, who was kind of the MC and get everything together. Thank her as well. Brighter Side Singers Extravaganza last week. Matt Byers, of course, continues to do a great job with their singers, and they did a great job that evening. Jerry was there and took a lot of pictures. So Are they on your website yet, Jerry? Yes. Yeah, so check that out. I did attend this past weekend a JPIA workshop. Basically, the executive committee got together and discussed issues regarding how better to serve their members and what we could do to stay on top of things, and had a lot of good ideas, things that hopefully will be seen in the future. Of course, one of the big things is how to lower the premiums, which is always good for the city, so, and how to still provide that good coverage that we're used to, so a lot of good stuff there. And then lastly, just want to wish everybody a happy Cinco de Mayo, and Mary, thank you very much again for the treats. I won't tell my doctor that I'm eating all these, but that's okay. It doesn't hurt to do it once in a while, right? Okay, thank you. There you go. Thank you very much. And that's all I have, and so with that, we will move on to item number 16. We'll recess to our successor agency, a Temple City Community Redevelopment Agency meeting of May 5th. Call to order. If we could have roll call, please.
Agency Member Fish.
Here?
Agency Member Mann.
Here.
Agency Member Sternquist.
Here.
Vice Chair Yu.
Here.
Chairman Chavez.
Here. All right, item 3, consent calendar. Do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
Move it.
Have a second?
Second.
Yeah. Any objection? Hearing none, it'll be so ordered. Unfinished business, none. New business, none. Communications, none. Public comments. Do we have any public comments on the successor agency? This is successor agency. You want to wait till the next one? Okay. So, hearing none, I'll close public comments. 8, update from executive director and agency council, none. Matters from agency members, none. Closed session, none. And we are adjourned. We will now return to our regular meeting, and we will then go to item 17, additional public comments on items not listed on the agenda. Mary, now is your turn. Sorry about that. I know, I was thinking the same thing myself. Almost there.
Mary Coqueco, Temple City resident. I have
Happy
two
Cinco de
good
Mayo to
things
you.
to comment on this council now and the previous one. I did some research. I belong to East Pasadena Water Company. So I called the water company and I asked them, do you have a shortage of water and where do you get your water from? They said, we're a private company. We have our own wells. We don't have a shortage, but we're pressured with the state to pass this on to you. I said, do you have anything to do with Metropolitan Water Company? They say, no, we have nothing to do with them. I said, are you going to raise our rates? They said, no. On my water bill, there's 4 different categories. So your flat rate and then whatever you use. So you're already being whatever they charge. Okay, I've read all this stuff about all the other cities, Arcadia. I never water my lawn every day, period, even before all this. I don't have a sprinkler. I do it by hand. And I have these pots that I bought at Home Depot that you plant them and you water those, and there's water in the bottom and it goes up, so you don't have to give it water every day. I think I have friends that have Sunny Slope. I called Sunny Slope. I said, where do you get your water from? They said, well, we have some wells. I said, why are you going to charge your customers a fee? Well, in case we have to get water from Metropolitan. Well, why don't you wait? You don't need it right now. So it's a racket, let's put it. They have a way to get money. And I called another one. I forget the name of it. We have 5. I didn't get a chance to investigate everybody yet. But I took it upon myself because of our city. We have 5 water companies, and I'm curious where they get their water from. Then I have a lot in Duarte, and people are dumping stuff on my lot, which I'm going to have to
I clear the weeds all the time. So I called DeWarty. We've always complained about Athens. Athens is great. The service we get from Athens, so when I called DeWarty, they don't have no set rate. It depends, you have to have a barrel that they approve, and it depends on the size, like 30, 60, and 90. So you're paying by the poundage. So it's not cheap. And they only so then I thought, gee, I know Vincent, went to Athens because we have the 30-year. I'll never complain about Athens. Nobody has the service we have twice a week. You can put anything out there on your second day and they'll take it. So when I asked DeWarty, they said, no, you can't put anything out. Now I know why they're dumping it on my lot, because they don't have the service we have. So, and they only do it twice a year where you could put something out. And they have to pay extra for everything on the trash part plus the barrels. So I think we have a great service with Athens. So anyway, I'll never complain about the rates anymore, because we do have a great, and then we can put out as much trash. We don't have to buy a certain kind of trash can and all that. It's great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mary. Okay, any other public comments? Seeing none, we will close public comments. We will now adjourn to our closed session, and when we get back, I'm sure all of you will be gone. Have a good evening. What?
Lock the doors and say, please knock if you'd like to come in for closed session.
Why, did some nutcase come in?
No, nobody ever comes.
Did the bathroom guy come in again? Okay, we are returning from our closed session. Mr. City Attorney, if you would please report out.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council originally met in closed session during its 6:15 session. We handled one item of potential litigation under item 4A. There was no reportable action on that item. The rest of the items were continued over until after the end of the regular meeting. And we finished the other potential litigation item under 4A. There was no reportable action on that item. We had previously canceled item 4B, which was listed as one item of anticipated litigation. The other two items, C and D, had to do with conference with the city manager's chief labor negotiator with regard to the employee organizations and unrepresented employee groups that are designated on C and B. Council gave direction to their chief labor negotiator, and that was the only reportable action on those items. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and with that, we are adjourned. Okay, everybody have a good evening,
Thank you.
and we'll see you, what do we got going on this week?